This dude talking about when they were debating about could Mashiach die for your sins, which I kind of spoke with y'all about a little bit on Wednesday, and then something that Kira asked me about them yesterday morning. So we'll see how that goes. But John 5:39, man. So I'm gonna tell you something too. We give praise, glory, and honor to the Most High Yah by way of Yahushua HaMashiach. You know, I'll tell you something too, Corey, based on something what I was just talking to you about, like a slight with them emotion thing. Then coming into the word too, man. And then you see how the word telling you how you got to crucify them emotions. Like, that was one of them things for me, like, okay, that's right up my alley because I've been doing this. You know what I'm saying? You like, well, it was a lot of stuff, like, when I started dealing with the word, that when I was looking at it and looking at myself, like, okay, I had been doing these things. So, in certain situations and parameters, when I was doing things that I didn't do before that, it really affect my mental state. You know what I'm saying? Because you're doing things outside of the framework that you done did before. You know what I'm saying? You don't never like to sit back and do things that's outside of what you've always done. It'd be different if you always did it. You know what I'm saying? But like dealing with it, because we know that from Galatians 5. He say, those that are Mashiach have crucified the lust and the affections, you know what I'm saying, or your emotions. You know what I'm saying? That's basically like when you sitting back looking at that, you suppressing the nefas of the soul, because the soul is the seat of the emotions. You know what I'm saying? So you're looking to take out your emotions. This is why it's funny, right? Because I remember I was talking to a dude about 5-6 years ago. And I was telling him, and he was like, I was going off about something. I'm like, I said that was a righteous anger. And he said, there's no such thing as a righteous anger. So then when I showed him in Mark chapter 3, Hamashiach being angry, you know what I'm saying? Because of the hardness of the people's hearts. He was shocked because he didn't realize that was in there. Because he just wasn't angry to be angry. He was angry at the stubbornness of the people when I'm trying to manifest something to you. Because all he was trying to do was heal a man's hand that was withered on the Shabbat. And they were looking to accuse him. And it states in that Mark chapter 3 that when he healed the man's hand, he looked around the room with anger because of the hardness of their hearts. You know what I'm saying? Because it's sitting back showing you that while he was the son of man, or the son of Adam, that he had that nefas, or that seat of emotions. He had the same things that we had. Like, he could be sad, he could be angry, he could be joyful. You read those things about him, that he had all of these things in him, but he just didn't allow that to cloud his judgment. That's why, and I'm mentioning that to say this, just because there's and I've said it, there's nothing wrong with having emotions. It's just not letting your actions be dictated by how you feel. You know what I'm saying? Because when you go to talk about how I feel, or how I feel as far as making a decision, you could make the wrong one. You know what I'm saying? It, like I said, it clouds your judgment. I've always went on, okay, I got these emotions, but screw them. You know what I'm saying? They're present, but they're not present. John 5:39. It says, search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. So let's look at Matthew 23 and 23. Let's read that verse one more time. Matthew 23 and 23. And it says, woe unto you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint, anise, and cumin, and have omitted the weightier matters of the law, judgment, mercy, and faith. These ought ye to have done, and not to leave the other undone. Say, you blind guides which strain out a gnat and swallow a camel. And the reason why I mention that is because as I read that, it made me think about when we were having that discourse with them gentlemen, and they kept trying to turn around and focus on us saying Yahusha or Yahusha, and they saying Yahweh, when we using the same characters and spelling, but pronouncing it differently. You know what I'm saying? Then I say that what that is in Joshua, man. Let me find that in Joshua real fast. Y'all turn over here to the book of Joshua, man. And I can show you like this, because we were telling them that they're like, this is really like a real small discrepancy. That might not be Joshua. It could be Judges. I'm trying to remember what that said. If any of you brothers recall off the top of your head where that Shivalat story is, man, let me know. I'm trying to remember. It's been so long since I read it. But it's, the reason why I'm mentioning that, because when he say straining at a gnat and swallowing a camel, because they were trying to focus on smaller matters, when we was trying to focus on actually faith and judgment when we were speaking with them. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not mentioning that because of them. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah, this Judges chapter 12. 12 and 1 though. Not just because of them, but the things that sometimes we could sit back and you could get caught up on the lighter matters of the law and not be focused on the weightier matters, because they prospect, and that's really just the organization that they're affiliated with or with, that their focus is that the name is so important. But like I'm telling y'all, they spell Yahusha the same way that we do. They just pronounce it differently. And the reason why we finna look at this here is because if you know somebody in Florida says back different than somebody in California says it, if any of y'all that have been around people from other places have been to other places, you know it's different dialects and different ways of speaking, and that people pronounce words differently though it's the same word. It says, and the men of Ephraim gathered themselves together and went northward and said unto Jephthah, this is Judges 12 and 1. Wherefore passed thou over to fight against the children of Ammon? Did not call us to go with thee? We will burn thy house upon thee with fire. Jephthah said unto them, I and my people were at great strife with the children of Ammon. And when I called you, you delivered me not out of their hands. And when I saw that you delivered me not, I put my life in my hands and passed over against the children of Ammon, and Yahuwah delivered them into my hand. Wherefore then are you come up against me this day to fight against me? Something came to my head when I was reading that. Anybody got anything they sit back looking at what came to their head? Anything come to anybody's head listening to that? Now I say the men of Ephraim or the children of Yasharal came up to Jephthah and said, and said that you didn't come out, you didn't pass over to fight against the children of Ammon. We are going to come. He said, you did not call us to go with thee. He said, we're going to burn thine house upon thee with fire. And he said, my people were with great strife against these people. He said, when I called you, you didn't deliver me out of their hands. He said, you delivered me not. I put my life in my hands. And I passed over against them, and y'all delivered me out of their hand. Wherefore, why you come up against me this day to fight me? What does come to anybody's mind upon hearing that? Don't nobody got nothing come to their head when you hear that? Yeah, I hear you. Anything come to anybody's mind when they hear that? No? Go ahead. Hello? Come on, what's going on? Ain't nothing come to nobody here when you hear that? Well, let's look at it, right? Now, we know Jephthah means he opens. So we look at he opens, say, I and my people were at great strife with the children of Ammon, or the tribe. Because Ammon means tribal. You know what I'm saying? He's saying when he called unto them, they didn't deliver them out of his hands. So let's turn around and let's look at something. You hold in Judges 12 and 1. When he's talking about that he opens. And he say, and my life was in my hands. Let's go to John chapter 10. John 10 and 17, man. I feel you on that. Let's look at verse 15 instead of 17. Yeah, I feel you, man. Sometimes you want to just get you a pistol and shoot Mr. Charlie in the face. But you know what I'm saying? But you can't do that, though. John 10 and 15, at least not right now, anyway. Because the time coming, we read that before, right? The time coming, boy. These people gonna feel that. Huh? Y'all hear me? Hold on. Yeah, I hear y'all though. Let me try it again. Because I hear them talking. They couldn't hear me though. Y'all hear me now? No, I mean I heard y'all. I was talking the whole time. Yeah, I heard y'all. I heard you talking about boy, you tired working for Mr. Charlie. You know what I'm saying? I heard Glover talk about he messed up about the Titanic. You know what I'm saying? And he hate this place. I heard all of that. You know, Glover found out the Titanic was an inside job. He didn't know that. And yeah, they killed them people on general principle. Glover said he just frozen to death. How evil are you? You know what I'm saying? John 10 and 15, you know. He said, as the Father know me, even so I know the Father, and I lay down my life for the sheep. Get up. And other sheep I have which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. Therefore doth my Father love me, because I lay down my life, that I might take it again. No man take it from me, but I lay it down of myself. I have power to lay it down, and I have power to take it again. The commandment I received of my Father. We just seen that he that opens, right? What did he say? My life is in my hand. That's what he said, right, in Judges chapter 12. Did y'all hear that? When I read it, or do I got to read it again when it went out? I'll read it again in verse 2. And it says, and Jephthah, which means he opens, said unto them, I and my people were at great strife with the children of Ammon, which is tribal. So I and my people were at great strife with a tribe. And when I called you, you delivered me not out of their hands. And when I saw that you delivered me not, I put my life in my hands, and passed over against the children of Ammon, and Yahuwah delivered them into my hands. Wherefore then are you come up unto me this day to fight against me? So we sit back and look at it. He says, when I called out unto you, you didn't deliver me out of these people's hands. Let's sit back and look at he that opens. Let's look at Revelation chapter 3. 3 and 7, or 3 and 6. He said, he that have an ear, let him hear what the Ruach saith unto the synagogues. And to the Malachim of the synagogue in Philadelphia write, these things saith he that is Kadesh, he that is true, he that have the key of David, he that opened and no man shut, and no man open. I know thy works, and behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man can shut it, for thou hast a little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. So when we sit back and look at it, he said, when I called unto you, you didn't deliver me out of their hand, which means you denied me in their presence. See, let's look at Acts chapter 3. We're still holding Judges chapter 12. Acts chapter 3 and about verse 11. Acts chapter 3 and verse 11. It said, as the lame man which was healed held Peter and John, all the people ran together unto them in the porch that is called Solomon's, greatly wondering. And when Peter saw it, he answered unto the people, ye men of Yasharah, why marvel ye at this? Or why look ye so earnestly on us, as though by our own power of Kadesh we made this man to walk? The Elohim of Abraham, of Isaac, and of Jacob, the Elohim of our fathers, have glorified his son Yahushua, whom you delivered up and denied him in the presence of Pilate, when he was determined to let him go. But ye denied the Kadesh one, and the just, and desired a murderer to be granted unto you, and killed the Prince of Life, whom Elohim have raised from the dead, whereof we are witnesses. And his name, through faith and in his name, have made this man strong, whom ye see and know. Yea, the faith which is by him have given him this perfect soundness in the presence of you all. Now again, I guess I'll be able to tie this in here, the other thing with the weightier matters of the law. But you see how he sat back and say, they denied he that opened. The same way that the people denied he that opened. And why? Because he said they've hated me without a cause. You understand what I'm telling you? Because this is what it is. He said he came up against the children of Ammon and he overcame them. He passed over them. He passed over the people because the people had an issue. And he turned around and he said, he that opens is the one that caused them, this man, to have this perfect soundness which you both now see. We know that Isaiah told us about, he will keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed upon me. You know what I'm saying? Like last evening, my ruach was real grieved. And you know what I'm saying? Yehuda will put certain things into my mind as far as to crying out unto him to where your mind need to be stayed upon me. And that when your mind is stayed upon me, then your shalom will be consistent and it'll be constant. You know what I'm saying? When your mind is stayed upon other things, it can remove that from me, which to a certain extent, you can catch yourself being separated from me. No matter if anybody preaches the word or not, we all flesh and blood men, and you have things where you battles that you got to fight. That's why you say you must endure hardness as a good soldier of Yahushua HaMashiach. You have to endure that hardness and that trouble and all these type of things that you might even have in your own mind. Because even when you turn around and look at Mashiach, he was in the flesh, he was still dust and ashes like we are, privy to all the things and the workings and the movements of the flesh. See, since I mentioned the thing about emotions earlier, you sit back and we'll actually look at Most High willing before we get finished. That Hamashiach having the same human experience and infirmities and emotions that we have. Because Elohim doesn't have emotions. Like, he doesn't have those. You look at it and you say, well, compassion and jealousy and mercy, those are emotions. But in actuality, they're actions. You know what I'm saying? Showing mercy is an act. Being compassionate is an act. You know what I'm saying? So when you look at that, that's an act that he has, because emotions do not dictate, because he's Ruach. Spiritual beings do not have emotions. Therefore, he does not have the struggle that a flesh and blood man will have, and trying to separate his Ruach from the flesh. So I say the Ruach is willing, but the flesh is weak. Because that's an infirmity of the flesh, is that nephesh, or that seat of emotions. You know what I'm saying? No. This is why the people hated this man without a cause. And this is why they weren't willing to deliver him out of their hand. Because it said Pilate was determined to let him go. But they wouldn't come save him. You see how that goes along with that? They didn't want to come save him. So he said, I put my life in my own hands. And I passed over these people. So now we turn around and look at it. We need to put our life in the Son's hands. You know what I'm saying? We have to make that decision of, I'm going to lay my life down. Look at Romans 12:1. See, this is what you turn around and looking at is, this is a judgment call that Jephthah has made. That I will take my life into my own hands. And he said, then Yahuwah will deliver me from the children of Ammon, and then I will destroy them. You know what I'm saying? He says, I beseech you, therefore, brethren, by the mercies of Elohim, that you present your bodies a living sacrifice, Kadesh, acceptable unto Elohim, which is your reasonable service. And be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you may prove what is that good and acceptable and perfect will of Elohim. For I say through the favor given unto me to every man that is among you, not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think soberly, according as Elohim hath dealt to every man the measure of faith. Again, we're looking at that perfect soundness which comes of faith. And I'm saying, and some of y'all might not realize this here, but man, I tell you all the time, like, we're dealing with this word. It always tell you that we always constantly forever maturing. You know, you never heard me say like, okay, boy, I done hit the mark, boy, I'm straight. I ain't got to keep going. I ain't got to keep going. But to think soberly. And that's just to have a clear mind, a steady mind. And when you're thinking soberly, you're not thinking according to your emotions. You're thinking clearly. You'll be able to make a proper judgment and assessment call. That's why you say to be renewed in your mind by transforming your mind, not according to your former lust. You know what I'm saying? We spoke about this before. When you turn around and you look at the world and you look at Yahuwah versus Satan, Satan's always going to come with what you want, and Yahuwah's going to come with what you need. Your flesh is always going to want to incline itself to what it wants versus what it needs. Because what it wants is more pleasing. What it wants is to make you feel better. What you need may not always feel as great, but it's going to get you where you got to be at. You know what I'm saying? This is why a lot of people don't like the truth and they prefer lies. This is why it's why people surround themselves with yes men. people that will always tell them what they want to hear versus what they need to hear. You know what I'm saying? Because what I want to hear feels better. You know what I'm saying? Than what I need to hear. Because what you need to hear is going to sting. You know what I'm saying? What you want to hear is going to have you feeling all fluttery on the inside and reinforce what you want to do anyway. This is where it comes in at, or where the judgment gets off kilter. You know what I'm talking about? Just like this here, right? Only because it was a crazy thing when we was out there talking to them brothers, right? And it's not just them, because it's the doctrine itself, which comes from West 125th Street in Harlem. You know what I'm saying? Their judgment is off because they tell you that you won't be made perfect, or you won't be able to obey, or you won't be able to receive the Ruach until the kingdom of Shamahim is established. So their judgment says, do your best to your ability, and if you just mess up, it's all right. Because when you get to the wilderness, or when Hamashiach comes, he'll straighten all that out. But you know what I'm saying? But that's a false judgment. That's a bad judgment call, because you're actually making this judgment based on the fact of, I don't actually want to restrict myself and deny myself. It's easier for me to cater to what I want and what I desire versus restricting myself and changing my mind and not being conformed to that, and actually prove out through my actions what the will of Elohim is. You know what I'm saying? Yes. That's what happens. You know what I'm saying? We can't actually have that type of mind frame because it is destructive. It is very, very destructive. Come on back over here to the Judges chapter 12. You know, all of us know that we done did things and we done executed bad judgment, and we done did things that we ought not have done, or make decisions that we ought not have made. Do you know what I'm saying? And 99.9% of the time when we make a bad decision, we usually make a bad decision because we made the decision based on how we were feeling at the time. You know what I'm saying? You know, lately, you know what I'm saying, I've been expressing what I've been feeling at the time. It's not necessarily what I was going to go do, but this is how I was feeling at the time. But I knew that I wouldn't make a decision based on how I was feeling at the time, because I would have made a horrible one that would have put my soul in danger. You know what I'm saying? Because this is how I was feeling at the time. And like I said, it was easier for me not to be able to do that, because even in the midst of dealing with something new, of having emotions and actually dealing with them and trying to cope with them and actually acknowledging them and not being numb to them, I still had the ability not to make decisions based off of them. You know what I'm saying? But then it's just the learning of how to express them or hold them back when they don't necessarily need to be expressed, when it's an emotion that has already been expressed. You know what I'm saying? Stop, Leo. Just chill out. You know what I'm saying? You sit back and you look at it, every last one of you, know, I thank Yahuwah for it, because the whole purpose of it is, in order to be, you know, taken through a phase to get, you know what I'm saying, boom, 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 so you can be perfected. You know what I'm talking about? That's what I'm telling you. Like, my sense has been exercised to know good and evil, because by reason of use of the word. So I'm able to see things and make a judgment on it. If you haven't really exercised yourself through the word to use it and apply it on a consistent basis, and to have wisdom and to have understanding, then your judgment will always be off. You know what I'm saying? It'll always be off. Like, even in the seat of dealing with your emotions, when it comes down to judgment, you gotta put that stuff to the side, because you're not judging for man. We're gonna read that in a minute and do in 2 Chronicles 19. You're not judging for man, you're judging for Elohim. You know what I'm saying? So all that how you feel and your personal emotion, that put that stuff to the side. You're judging for Yah. You know what I'm saying? We're looking at about verse 3 again. He said, when I saw that you delivered me not, I put my life in my hands. That's why he say, Father, in thy hands I commend my Ruach, because I and my Father are one. We have to turn around and look at that. Y'all know that Luke chapter 12 says, if you deny me before men, I will deny you before my Father and his Malachim. We know that denying this man is to have a behavior that is not a consistent. He won't be able to open that door for you. That's why he say, strive ye to enter. Matter of fact, since I said that, Luke chapter 12. It might not be 12. It might be 15. Leah, stop. got to learn how to listen, little girl. Luke chapter 12 and verse 22 is what exactly what it was. Luke 12, 13, I'm sorry, and 22. 13 and 22. And he went through the cities and villages, teaching and journeying toward Jerusalem. Then said one unto him, Master, are there few that be saved? And he said unto them, Strive to enter in at the strait gate. For many, I say unto you, will seek to enter in and shall not be able. When once the master of the house is risen up and have shut the door, and ye begin to stand without, and to knock at the door, saying, Master, Master, open unto us, he shall answer and say unto you, I know you not, whence ye are. Then you shall begin to say, We have eaten and drink in our presence, or drunk in our presence, and thou hast taught in our streets. But he shall say, I tell you, I know ye not whence you are. Depart from me, all ye workers of iniquity. Therefore there shall be weeping and gnashing of teeth, when you shall see Abraham and Isaac and Jacob and all the prophets in the kingdom of Elohim, and you yourselves thrust out. Now you turn around and look at these people's judgment. Stop. These people's judgment was because you taught in our streets, and we heard you preach, and we ate with you, and we drank with you, that you should open the door unto us. This is the judgment that they had because we partook in these feasts and we sat down and listened to you. See, let's look at Ezekiel 33 while we still holding Judges 13. Let's sit back and look at some of the judgment of the people. These people judge because we sat down and ate and drank, but you should let us in. Not that we believed you, not that we obeyed you, not that we sanctified ourselves, but because we heard you and we ate and drank, you should open that door. Because remember, Gentile means he that opens, and these people rejected him, right? He said, when I cried out, you didn't listen to me. You didn't come save me. So I had to take my life in my own hands, and Yahuwah delivered me. So this is one of the things that I expressed last evening, and one of the things that I had posted, like, you know what I mean? Yah is my only comfort. I gotta take my life and put it in his hands. Because if I leave my life in my hands, it shall be destroyed. You know what I'm saying? The only sit back and the focus that I'm going to have to sit back and look at is the desires of this life, the cares of this life. All these things are going to have to be put to the side. Not to say that naturally that you're not going to do these things or seek after certain things or desire certain things. You know what I'm saying? But they're going to have to take a back seat. Stop, Leah. Sit down. 33 and 30. They're going to have to take a back seat because I need to place my life in my Elohim. Not as if my life had came up out of his hands, but you know what I'm saying? But a reaffirming and reestablishment in that. Because like we were talking about the other day, and that's a lot of stuff been going on the last few months, and I done came out of it a little stronger. The only difference is for the first time in my life, I've been dealing with emotions. You know what I'm saying? And how to harness them and actually deal with them and cope with them. Something that I ain't never did before. And you know, usually when you do something for the first time, you usually make a lot of errors and mistakes. Like you first start learning how to ride a bike, you kind of fall off of it a couple times before you get on it and you get used to just knowing how to ride and you don't fall off no more. You know what I'm saying? I'm not the type of individual that make the same mistake over and over again, but if you do make the same mistake, it's usually when you're doing something that you're not accustomed to doing, that you're learning how to do. Not to say that everybody do it. Some people can learn something, take to it, and don't make an error. You know what I'm saying? It happens. I mean, I've done it before. Just somebody showed me something, took to it, and it was smooth. But the construct of actually dealing with how you feel, it's real, you know what I'm saying, weird thing to me. You know what I'm saying? Something that I ain't used to. 33 and 30. Also, thou son of man, the children of thy people still are talking against thee by the walls and in the doors of the houses, and speak one to another. Everyone's cut that off, Leah. Cut it off. Go put it up. Go put it up. Also, thou son of man, the children of thy people still are talking against thee by the walls and in the doors of the houses, and speak one to another, every one to his brother, saying, Come, I pray you, hear what is the word that come forth from Yahuwah. And they come unto thee as the people come, and they sit before thee as my people, and they hear thy words, but they will not do them. For with their mouth they show much love, but their heart go after their covetousness. Lo, thou art unto them as a very lovely song of one that have a pleasant voice and can play well on an instrument. For they hear thy words, but they do them not. And when this come to pass, and lo, it will come, then shall they know that a prophet hath been among them. So you see what they mind frame was, as long as we sitting here hearing it, we good. He teaching in our streets. Let's go hear him. But their judgment is off because their heart is going after the desire. This is why he said you need to be transformed and not be conformed to this world, but transformed by the renewing of your mind to prove what the acceptable will of Elohim is. Because when he say you're going after your covetousness, you're going after your lusts. You're going after your desires. So therefore, wrong judgment is going to proceed. Let's look at James chapter 4 and verse 1 as it pertains to that. James 4 and 1. Let's look at that as it comes to that. Because I don't care who you are. And I've told y'all this before. That as long as we are in the fleshly body, you will always have a battle and a fight between the flesh and the ruach. It's a never-ending battle. This is why Paul say, I fought the good fight of faith. I fought my flesh, and in return, because I fought it, I will get a crown of life because I decided to fight. I didn't decide to lay down. I didn't decide to allow the nephash or the seat of my emotions to control my behavior. James 4 and 1. James 4 and 1. He said, from whence come wars and fightings among you? Come they not hence even of your lust that war in your members? Ye lust and have not. Ye kill and desire to have and cannot obtain. You fight and war, yet ye have not because you ask not. You ask and receive not because you ask amiss, that you may consume it upon your lust. You turn around and look at it sometimes, we ask y'all to give us certain things. And you wonder why you don't get them. Or if you get certain things, you're not turning around realizing you get them because you want to use these things to consume them upon your lust. Your covetousness. So you hear the word and the word sound good to you, but you won't do it because you're looking to get it according to your lust. That's what you're looking to fulfill. So then when you ask this man, you asking off because you asking to consume this stuff upon your lust. He said, you adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that friendship of the world is enmity with Elohim? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of the world is the enemy of Elohim. So again, this is where you turn around and you look at judgment. The children of Ephraim did not want to deliver he that opens from the hand of Ammon, because they would rather be a friend of the world. Therefore, that made them an enemy of Elohim. You know what I'm saying? Wrong judgment is proceeding. See, you don't sit there and realize when he's telling you not to conform yourself to this world, it's so that you don't become his enemy. Because enmity is hatred. If you're a friend of the world, Elohim hates you. He hates you. And therefore you hate him. Because that is what you're manifesting to him. You know what I'm saying? So then we have to turn around and look at, we don't want anything to be misconstrued with him. And we don't want to make ourselves friends of the world or friends with sinners. Because the word tells us that you can't love those that hate Yah. Because when you love those that hate Yah, he said you're going to have wars. Matter of fact, since I said that, hold this James chapter 4 and get 2 Chronicles 19 and 1. And we'll look at that and see the correlation between the two. Leah. Hush. 19 and 1. 2 Chronicles 19 and 1. We'll end up most high willing coming back to 2 Chronicles 19. But we'll see how it goes from right now. And Jehoshaphat, the king of Yehudah, returned to his house in Shalom to Jerusalem. And Jehu, the son of Hanani, the seer, went out to meet him. And said to King Jehoshaphat, should thou help the ungodly and love them that hate Yahuwah? Therefore wrath is upon thee from before Yahuwah. Nevertheless, there are good things found in thee, and that thou hast taken away the groves out of the land and prepared thy heart to seek Elohim. Excuse me. And Jehoshaphat dwelt at Jerusalem, and he went out again through the people from Beersheba to Mount Ephraim, and brought them back unto Yahuwah, Elohim of their fathers. Now he sit back and said to be great wrath upon them. You know, come on back to James chapter 4. I think that was 2 Chronicles 15 I was thinking about. Well, he say, from henceforth then you shall have wars. Which was along the same pattern of what's being mentioned here. When we hate those that love Yah, and we make ourselves a friend of the world, then the wrath of Elohim be upon us. When we turn around and we sit back and we cleave to the things of the world, or we cleave to people of the world, then the wrath of Elohim is going to be upon us. Therefore, we're going to have wars. And those wars, when we turn around and look at it, you're looking at him saying he putting wars on us as a people, or wrath on us as a people. We turn around and see that wrath and that war are turn around and be the war that develops in our members. Because when we seek to have the things that are of this world, or seek to be friends of those that are of this world, or seek to be friends of those that are outside of this way, then what ends up developing is that we are now in enmity with Elohim, because we seek those things that are outside of his will. So when we look at 4 and 4 one more time. He said, ye adulterers and adulteresses, know ye not that the friendship of the world is enmity with Elohim? Whosoever therefore will be a friend of this world is an enemy of Elohim. Do you think the scripture saith in vain, the Ruach that dwell in us lust to envy, but he give more favor? Wherefore he saith, Elohim resist the proud, but give favor unto the humble. Submit yourselves therefore to Elohim, resist the devil, and he will flee from you. Draw nigh to Elohim, and he will draw nigh to you. Cleanse your hands, ye sinners, and purify your hearts, ye double-minded. So this is the thing that we had to turn around and look at. This is what we have to turn around and look at. This is where our mind has to be developed on and thinking towards. That when we turn and humble ourselves before Elohim, then we can be able to serve. And this is what Jephthah did. This is why he was to be able to live. He said, I took my life in my own hand. Yahuwah saved me. He exalted me in that time. Because when we love those that hate Yah, and we submit ourselves to the ways of this world, and we walk in that pathway, it's going to cause us to have the wrath of Elohim on our head, and we're going to have great wars, and you're going to have great fighting. That's why he say, do you not know that it says that you fight and you war? See, let's look at 1 Corinthians chapter 9, something that Paul said, and I'm thinking about fighting and warring. But all this is coming down to judgment and the assessing of a matter. Because when we assess matters and we think upon matters, what are we assessing it by? And get Deuteronomy chapter 4 and verse 4. It's just going to look at our instructions and see the instructions that God gave us. You know what I'm saying? To know that his law is our understanding in the sight of the nation. This is what should cause us to operate and know how to judge and know how to look at things, and to stop looking at things through a carnal mind frame and aspect. See, this is what, and after that Deuteronomy 4, while we're still holding the 12th chapter of Judges, I haven't forgot what we actually came to Judges for. Get your Matthew chapter 15 and look at how the scribes and Pharisees have allowed wrong judgment to proceed. You know, we talked about in the past, like when Hamashiach got killed, and that judgment was rendered on him, that wrong judgment proceeded, because he was an innocent, righteous man, and yet he was killed. But that wrong judgment had to proceed. That righteous judgment of faith and salvation could be extended unto all. So that's why you've seen wrong judgment proceed in that particular instance. But then when you turn around and look at it, and we'll look at instances where Mashiach asked his disciples questions. You know what I'm saying? He said, you rightly judged. Because you got to know how to rightly judge. You got to know how to rightly judge. And a lot of times we don't rightly judge because we want to judge things based on what we want. How I'm feeling. Or considering what other people might think or say. You know what I'm saying? When we come down and dealing with the word, like the word tells us to have no appearance of evil. So now you don't necessarily have to be concerned what anybody has to say or what they think, but you don't also, we look at it, we don't want to give the appearance of evil before any man when we profess that who we serve has no evil with him. So that's why you don't want to do that. That's why some of y'all seen that bothered me in my instance, that I did something that could bring shame to his name because my good could be evil spoken of. Even the instance of me out there talking with the men. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going, y'all, I mean, those of y'all that know me know, hey man, I can go to talking about the word and I can go in. That somebody on the outside could look at me and think, that nigga is crazy. You know what I'm saying? What's wrong with them? And that could give that good that I'm actually speaking, it could cause it to be evil spoken of. You know what I'm saying? So we have to sit back and look at that and consider that we don't want that to happen. We don't want that any good work that we actually doing, that evil could be spoken of because of how it's perceived. You know what I'm saying? You have to look at that, you have to assess that and weigh that out. You know what I'm saying? Like when you looking at it and judging the situation, you have to look at it. What we got? 1 Corinthians 9 by 22. Well, 22. I'll make it 24. Know ye not that they which run in a race run all, but one receives the prize, so run that you may obtain. And every man that strive for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we are incorruptible. So when we look at it, we strive for mastery, to have self-control in all things. We're striving for the self-control to obtain a crown that will never fade away. So basically, we learn to get mastery over everything, whether it's our tongue, whether it's our thoughts, whether it's our emotions, whether it's our actions, whatever the case may be. You know what I'm saying? Our flesh, our desires. We looking to master that. That's why I've been telling most of y'all who know me for an extended period of time and been listening for an extended period of time, that as long as you in the Word and you steady knowing that you can always mature and keep growing. You know what I'm saying? Because the Word is living, so therefore everything that is living will continue to grow. Y'all never heard me ever state that, okay, boy, I'm here. I ain't got to keep on going. I ain't got to keep on growing. You've never heard me say that, because I know that's a lie from hell. You know what I'm saying? The minute that you go to thinking like that is the minute you're going to set yourself up to fall, to be destroyed, for y'all to bring you down, because now you done got arrogant and proud. You done got a little haughty and ruach, and you done lifted yourself up. You know what I'm saying? Now you turn around and look at it, you ain't even got to be haughty and proud, and Yahuwah can still bring you in situations to humble you even still, because that's just what he does to his servant. You got to remember, his laws say that, man. He chastised those whom he loved. He rebuked those whom he loved. No chastisement seems to feel good for that present time, but it's to make us a partaker of his kadeshness. So then when we look at what you're dealing with certain things, it's to make you perfect. It's to make you complete. It's to make you whole. It's to continually to make sure that you continually mature and grow in him. That is our objective, is to continually grow. The objective is just not for the construct of obtaining information and to dispense information. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of brothers think that that's what a lot of people are in it for the dispensing of information, when it's not just for the dispensing of information. What it's in it for is to cause a man to think, to cause a man to grow, to cause a man to consider his life, to cause a man to understand the seriousness of the matter. You know what I'm saying? Like Jeremiah said, this word is like a fire within me. You know what I'm saying? We looked at that. The ruach is like a fire. It'll burn you up on the inside, but not in a bad way. It'll set you on fire. And when you set on fire, you're burning for it. It's a desire for it. It's a passion for it. There's nothing else that matters besides that. You know what I'm saying? And it'll cause you to judge properly. It'll cause you to continue to fight. It'll cause you to continue to wail. It'll cause you to continue to keep going. He said, I therefore so run, not as uncertainly, so fight. I, not as one that beat the air, but I keep under my body and bring it under subjection, lest by any means, when I have preached to others, I myself should be a castaway. So that's what we turn around and we looking to fight, to keep these emotions under wraps. When we do that, we can be able to judge properly. Let's look at what our law says in Deuteronomy 4. 4 and 4. Deuteronomy 4 and 4. But ye did cleave unto Yahuwah your Elohim. But ye that did cleave unto Yahuwah your Elohim are alive, every one of you this day. Behold, I have taught you statutes and judgment, even as Yahuwah my Elohim commanded me, that you should do so in the land whither ye go to possess it. Keep therefore and do them, for this is your wisdom and understanding in the sight of the nations, which shall hear all these statutes and say, surely this great nation is a wise and understanding people. For what nation is there so great who have an Elohim so nigh unto them, as Yahuwah Elohim is in all things that we call upon him for? And what nation is there so great that have statutes and judgments so righteous as all this law which I set before you? Now, I'm not going to spell the word out, but when we look at the word for, hopefully I pronounce it properly, for judgment in Hebrew is misfat. And it means the act of deciding, a process and procedure and a decision. It's justice. It's the attribute of Elohim. So when we do things, we have to make an act of deciding, and we have to make sure that we decide right. Because there's a right and a wrong judgment. Now we're going to look at Matthew 15 and just see an example of that. 15:1. You can even see an example of that, of the wrong judgment that proceeded from the scribes and Pharisees every time Mashiach went to heal someone on the Shabbat. Because they were looking at, keep the law, keep the law. You can't do that on the Shabbat, and not looking at where's your judgment to execute mercy. You know what I'm saying? You so rigid on thinking because you keeping the Shabbat that you pleasing Elohim, but yet you forgetting to show mercy, so therefore you're not executing right judgment nor mercy. Therefore you're not committing the weightier matters of the law. Therefore you're breaking the law regardless of you keeping the Shabbat. Go. Go. You have to sit back and think about that. I had the other verse in my head, but we didn't go read it. Where he said, let that table be a snare and a trap unto them. Because you thinking that these feast days and these Shabbats that you keeping, that this is what's going to spare you. You know what I'm saying? You see brothers all the time, no pork on my fork. Oh, I don't eat this and I don't eat that. I don't eat no sea roaches. But yet they don't have mercy, they don't have faith, and they don't have judgment. So their worship of Elohim is in vain. We are not seeking to have a vain form of worship because we just looking at the lighter matters of the law and not the weightier matters. Because judgment, mercy, and faith are very important. The lighter matters of the law are very important. And they're all to be done. But we can't pick and say I'm going to do one and leave the other to be undone. And now a lot of things that we've been looking at, those lighter matters of the law, and we got that mastered, and I know this and I know that and I know how to execute this. But then the weightier matters of the law, the forgiveness, the mercy, the compassion, the judgment, the faith, we don't possess it. So because we don't possess these things, we don't possess the attributes and essence of Elohim to even get to the place of where we want to go. Matthew 15:1. Then came to Yahushua scribes and Pharisees which were of Jerusalem, saying, Why do thy disciples transgress the tradition of the elders? For they wash not their hands when they eat bread. But he answered and said unto them, Why do you also transgress the commandment of Elohim by your tradition? For Elohim commanded, saying, Honor thy father and mother, and he that curse father and mother, let him die to death. But ye say, Whosoever shall say to his father or his mother, It is a gift, by whatsoever thou might profit by me, and honor not his father or his mother, he shall be free. Thus you have made the commandment of Elohim of none effect by your tradition. Why they had that tradition? Because they were looking at following the lusts of their flesh and their desires, and they had wrong judgment proceeding. Therefore they had the people going against the word of Elohim by bad judgment. They were keeping Shabbats. They were keeping feasts. They didn't eat swine. But look what he told them though. Ye hypocrites, well did Yeshayahu prophesy you, saying, This people draw nigh unto me with their mouth and honor me with their lips, but their heart is far from me, but in vain they do worship me, teaching for the doctrine the commandments of men. So then we have to turn around and look at, are we following teachings that are the commandments of a man? Or are we following the teachings that are commandments of Elohim? Because when you're following the teaching that's a commandment of man, then guess what's going to happen? Man has wrong judgment in him. Man doesn't know how to judge properly. Man does not know the way of understanding. Man is flesh and blood. Flesh and blood cannot enter the kingdom of Elohim. Flesh and blood will deceive you every time. That's why you say the heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it? He that trusts his heart is a fool. This This is what your word say. That's Proverbs 28:26. You don't know that. You trust in your own mind. That book say you was a fool. You are stupid. And that's what the world tell you. Follow your heart. Trust your heart. Go with yourself. Go with yourself. And that's wrong judgment. The book tell you go with Yah. Go with what Yah say. Judge it according to what he say. Trust in Yah. Don't trust in your heart. Your heart will deceive you. Your heart will have you believing that what you want and what you doing is right when it's wrong. Because you overpowered by what you want. A lot of people sit back and look at, they doing something, they want something, then they go to Yah to ask for it, and then they wondering if he's going to give it to them. When you already know in your heart that you wrong and he's not going to give it to you. So then you try to construct it in your mind on how to get it. You know what I'm saying? Y'all should know that from the Christian church. Or when people hear certain things and people tell them, show them about the word, you know what I'm saying? I've seen this personally. I've seen it on videos before, you know, with people preaching in the street. I've seen it a lot personally. You tell somebody about something, right? That's in the word, and they say, I need to pray about that. You don't need to pray about nothing. It's right there. What is there to pray about? It's right there. You can't do that. Because you hoping if you go pray that something will come up to make you feel like, okay, the Most High is stamping this right here because this is what I want to do anyway. Instead of just being honest and saying, I just want to do that. I'm just going to go do it. Like straight up, I'm just going to go do it. This is how wrong judgment proceeds when we allow our desires to dictate that. Now, we was, like I said, all this what we were going by when I mentioned, like, okay, you say, let their table be a snare and a trap, was what we were looking at in Luke chapter 12. When he said, we ate and we drank with you. You know, you kept me feast in the name of Mashiach, the name of Yahushua. He said, we ate and drank in your presence, because you know he said, where 2 or 3 are gathered in my name, I'm in the midst, so I'm present. You know what I'm saying? You sat back and say, hey man, we heard you teaching in the street. But he said, all this here, you still wouldn't get in because you worked lawlessness, because you still judged that it was better for you to go against me. It was better for you to seek your will and seek your flesh than to do what I told you to do and to judge things based off what I said. That's why he say, what nation has a judgment so righteous? So what Yah says to do and how to make a decision, that's what's right. That's what's right. That is what's right. So when we look at that's what's right, that's what we need to follow. That's what we need to go with. That's what we need to base our decisions off of. When we turn around and look at it, we base our decisions off the righteousness, the righteous judgment of Yahuwah's word. We can't never go awry. We can't never go amiss. You'll never go wrong if you base things and judge it based off what the word says and not how you feel. Look at about verse 15 in this same chapter. He said, then answered Peter and said unto him, declare unto us this parable. Yahushua said, are ye also without understanding? Do ye yet not understand that whatsoever enter in at the mouth go into the belly and is cast out into the draught? But those things which proceed out of the mouth come from the heart, and they defile the man. For out of the heart proceed evil thoughts, murders, adulteries, fornications, thefts, false witnesses, blasphemies. These are the things which defile a man, but to eat with unwashed hands defile not a man. Now, we know Christians like to use this to say that you can eat what you want to eat, but the man made it clear what he was talking about. But then we turn around and look at it, the things that come out the heart are the lust of the flesh. That's what comes about that nefas, the seat of emotions, because everything he just mentioned, the evil thoughts, the murders, the adulteries, the fornications, the false witnesses, before all these things can occur, that thought has to come into your head. This is what's going to defile you. This is what is going to set you back. And you have to learn to be able to control these things to the point to where you don't make a wrong decision. Let's come back to Judges chapter 12. Because that's all judgment is about. It's decision making. And when you make a decision, what is your decisions based off of? So we read verse 4. Then Jephthah gathered together all the men of Gilead and fought with Ephraim. And all the men of Gilead smote Ephraim, because they said, ye Gileads are fugitives of Ephraim among the Ephraimites and among the Manassites. And the Gildites took the passages, this is Judges 12:5, of Jordan before the Ephraimites. And it was so, that when those Ephraimites which were escaped said, Let me go over, that the men of Gilead said unto him, Art thou an Ephraimite? And if he said, Nay, then they said unto him, Say now Shibboleth. And he said, Sibboleth, for he could not frame to pronounce it right. Then they took him and slew him at the passages of Jordan, and there fell at that time of the Ephraimites 42,000. And Jephthah judged Yasharal 6 years. Then died Jephthah the Gildeite, and was buried in one of the cities of Gilead. So what we sitting back looking at is this is how somebody was able to determine that they were Ephraimite. Because instead of saying Shibboleth, he said Sibboleth. Same word, different pronunciation. You know what I'm saying? So therefore, this is how they were able to judge who this was. Because if he would have said Shibboleth, then they wouldn't have killed him. But then because they would have known he wasn't of Ephraim, because they knew the dialect of what they spoke. Now I'm saying that to say all this here. Them same brothers we was out there talking to, the same way we spell Yahusha, in the same Paleo Hebrew, same ancient script and text, they use the exact same things. But when we see it, we pronounce it one way, and when they see it, they pronounce it another. You know what I'm saying? Now, when we be mocking them, talking about Kawasaki, we're not necessarily mocking them for the pronunciation of the name, but because of the character of the Savior that they claim that they serve. It's not consistent with the one that is written. You know what I'm saying? So we get our Elijah on with them, and we will mock you to your face. You know what I'm saying? Because that's what Elijah did to the prophets of Baal. They were false prophets. He mocked them to their face. He said, maybe your Elohim is on a journey. Or maybe he's sleeping and he needs someone to wake him. Because the servants of Elohim really don't have any patience for a false prophet. They don't really have no love for him or nothing. You know what I'm saying? But then you can see where it all depends on the situation and circumstance. Because then you can see Jeremiah, when he knew Hananiah was spitting a false prophecy, and he looked him in the face and said, hey, let y'all do what you say. He said, so be it. Let y'all perform what you have spoken. He knew the dude was lying and speaking a prophecy out of his own heart. You know what I'm saying? He knew this. He knew this. But in that instance, that's the track that he chose. Just like Elijah knew, okay, these niggas is false. I'm finna clown. You know what I'm saying? Y'all out here cutting yourself out and doing all this hollering and crying. I'm finna clown you. You know what I'm saying? But what we sitting back looking at is judgment. Because they just wasn't going to kill these people just to kill him. He's an Ephraimite, I'm going to kill him. They had something to judge it by. Then they were able to make the right decision, because Ephraim was to be destroyed at this time. Because they were at war. Because they were seeking to destroy Jephthah. And this is why this occurred. But I just read that because we were talking about it that day when a brother that we know walked up after them brothers had departed, and we were discussing like how they kept focusing on, you got to get the name right, you got to get the name right. And you know, Troy was talking to one of the brothers, and you know, and ran the characters down to him, and ran the pronunciation down to him, and ran all the things, because they assumed that Troy didn't know anything about that, and was shocked at how strong and well versed he was on the topic. So they were making a judgment on, we can't be right because we got the wrong name, which is going back to what I went there for about straining at a gnat and swallowing a camel. Because every time we were in that conversation, and it would be something that they would small, like, oh, sex is marriage, or can you drink, or can you divorce? Like, we're not even finna get into that, because that's a small matter. Like, we're not even finna strain at that. We're not even going to waste time discussing that. But when then you talking about, is the new covenant in effect? Are my sins remitted? Why did Hamashiach die? Because you know the new covenant says, when he put the law in your hearts and in your inward parts, and at that time he will forgive your sins, and your iniquities will he remember no more. So if it's not in effect, then Yah still remembers your sins. And if he remembers your sins, then you're still in your trespasses. And if you're still in your trespasses, you're condemned. You understand what I'm saying? That's a serious matter. You know what I'm talking about? That's not something you can just gloss over and just let that go. That's heavy right there. We had to sit back and look at Hamashiach sitting there drinking that cup saying, this is the blood in the New Testament which is said for the many for the remission of sins. And understanding that when you partake in that cup, and then you turn around and you partake in getting immersed, that you're partaking in the sufferings of Elohim. You have judged it just like Elohim judged it, that it was a righteous thing for this man to suffer and to make his soul an offering for sin, to make intercession for the transgressors, and that then the knowledge of this righteous man will give you the justification of faith which you seek to be able to enter into the kingdom of your Elohim. You know what I'm saying? So if you're telling me that this is not in effect, you're telling me my faith is null and void. You're telling me my service is in vain. That is bad judgment. You can't let that slide. That's serious right there. That gives a man a license to sin. That gives a man, that takes away a man's hope. What hope do I have if my sins is not forgiven? What hope do I have? If this man, what was he dying for? What was he resurrected for if the covenant is not in effect? Why am I restraining myself? Why am I believing? Why am I doing these things? That as long as I'm going to see the Yasharal, I'm going to make it anyway. Because I knew men, and still know men, who believe just because they know they Yasharal according to the flesh, their ticket is stamped. That they can do what they want, when they want, and it doesn't matter because I'm Abraham's seed. I'm Jacob, I'm Yasharal, and they're going to get in anyway. And then as we dealt with before, when we get in the wilderness, then I'm going to get it right. He'll straighten all that out now. Well, you got to have it straightened before that. You know what I'm saying? It's a mentality of what you selling people. You know what I'm saying? What are we actually telling the people? What are the people actually hearing? What are they actually hearing? This is why, again, I reiterate, y'all willing, we're going to do the same thing we did last week, just not as early. You know, at 2 o'clock, we'll be out there in the street. And, hopefully we can finagle a bigger area than what you had last time. You know, I don't think it's going to be as many of y'all in there, though. You know what I'm saying? But sometimes it's no different than junk food and healthy food. Sometimes you got to put something different on the table to give somebody a choice, to know that there's something different. You know what I'm talking about? When you look at One West doctrine, because that means screw the individuals, because they're not the only people that I've ever met in Hemet Plaza who believe what they believe. It's like 3-4 groups in this city that believe what they believe. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes the people need to hear something different, to know that there's a different perspective out here. Whether they choose to hear it or follow it, I mean, that's on them. You know what I'm saying? But they won't say that they ain't never heard. They won't be able to ever say that. They'll never be able to say that. When we was out there last week, we were just preaching. We didn't talk to nobody. We didn't have no discourse with them dudes. Them dudes was right. Probably about 10, 15 feet away from us, if that, preaching whatever the war that they were preaching. You know what I'm saying? We were talking to a couple of the homeless people and people walking past. You know what I'm saying? And the thing that this people lacks the most is hope. They have no hope whatsoever because nobody is giving them any hope. And we know hope is the evidence of things hoped for, the things not seen. That's faith. We don't have any of that. We don't have judgment. We don't have mercy. And we wonder why we're stuck in the positions that we're stuck in. We wonder why Elohim don't hear us. Just like we know some brothers had a national fast. I don't know how many of our people partook, but I think it was from the 28th, the 29th, and the 1st. And there's nothing wrong with that, to have thousands upon thousands of our people on one accord crying, hoping that Yah will hear us. You know what I'm saying? But then when we turn around, go ahead to John 9:31. But when we turn around and sit back and look at what we need to do to get him to hear us, then we need to sit back and look at it's a heart transplant. You know what I'm saying? It's a mind renewal. It'll cause us to judge properly. It'll cause our faith to be increased, which will cause us to live by that faith. And therefore he will hear that cry. Because we'll sit back and look at what the word states that he would hear us. 29, 9:29. Look at 27. John 9:27. He said, he answered them, I have told you already, and you did not hear. Wherefore would you hear it again? Will you also be his disciples? Then they reviled him and said, thou art his disciple, but we are Moses' disciples. We know that Elohim spake unto Moses. As for this fellow, We know not from whence he is. The man answered and said unto them, Why herein is a marvelous thing that ye know not from whence he is, and yet he have opened my eyes. See, now they turn around and let's look at the misconstruction, the misconstruing of judgment on the scribes and Pharisees part. They said, we know Moses. He said, we Moses' disciples. He said, we don't know where this fella come from. Look how their judgment was off. Look how it was off. Yeah, I mean, dudes say that he'll bring back animal sacrifice all the time, but that's just a lack of understanding, is what that is. That's just a lack of understanding. That's something I've been wanting to talk about since y'all know, since before Goldie died. So that's like July, August of last year, because me and him talked about this on a regular basis. And I actually was on a conference call with somebody who was questioning me about that, and we ran it down, and they tried to say that I was trying to do this and do that, but it is what it is. But nah, Yahuwah ain't bringing back no animal sacrifices, man. Most High willing, we'll discuss that at another time in more detail, because they're referring to, those of y'all that don't know, just to have you familiar with it, they're referring to Ezekiel chapter 40 and Ezekiel 40 through 48, where you read about the prince offering certain sacrifices and all this here. And so they say, see, Yahushua couldn't have been the sacrifice because Yahuwah is going to bring back animal sacrifices in the kingdom. But it's just a lack of understanding, of knowing that, of course, Ezekiel is going to have to see a man actually executing and doing animal sacrifices, because it was not for him to know that a man was coming to remove all of those things, and that the animal sacrifices they were seeing was basically just him. But for some people, they're not going to believe that. They're not going to accept that. Even those who profess faith in Yahushua. But what can you do about it? You know what I mean? All you can do is present the information. Let a man search the scriptures to see if those things are so. And then if Yah give them the heart of faith to believe, then blessed be them. If he does not give them a heart to believe, blessed be Yah again. You know what I'm saying? Ain't much you can do about that. John 9 and 30. The man answered and said unto them, Why herein is a marvelous thing that you know not from whence he is, and yet he have opened my eyes. Now we know that Elohim hear not sinners, but if any man be a worshiper of Elohim and do his will, him he hear. Get you Psalms 50 and 20. I mentioned this, I referenced it earlier. Hold on. Excuse me. And I referenced John chapter 4 in about verse 20 earlier. You know what I'm saying? We know to be a worshiper of Elohim, you got to serve him in Ruach and in truth. He said, if you're a worshiper of Elohim, he will hear you. And if you do his will, to worship Elohim is to serve him and to give him that reverence, to have that faith in him, to manifest those attributes and to conform yourself into the image of the Son. Because every man, woman's desire on this earth would be to know that Yah hears them. The reason why Yahushua was able to be heard, he said, Father, I know you hear me always, because he was a worshiper of Elohim and he did his will. You sitting back looking at Yahuwah is not going to answer you and you're not doing his will, and he's definitely not going to answer you if you doubt him. If you do not believe, he's definitely not going to hear you. You know what I'm saying? Faith is a very, very powerful thing. Faith is the greatest thing that any man and woman can possess. I'm talking about a true faith, a heart of faith. It's a gift. Because to be honest with you, only Elohim can give you the heart of faith. The book calls faith a gift. All gifts come from on high. That means he has to open your heart for you to even receive that gift. The same way you to get a gift from a person, you have to open your hands to take that gift from that person, right? For them to put it in your hands for you to take it. Well, Yahuwah has to open your heart, and then when that gift is manifest, you have to be able to open your hands and take it. Everybody does not have the heart of faith. Those who have the heart of faith, that's why that Hebrews 11 is in there. You know what I'm saying? Because that is what set these men apart from everybody else. It was their unwavering, unshakable faith in Yahuwah Elohim. That's what separated Abraham and made him righteous and made him a friend of Elohim. He was just because he lived by the faith that he had in Elohim. Therefore, he was able to make a right judgment in every matter that he went through. You know what I'm saying? In every single solitary matter. When you look at Isaac, same thing. You look at Jacob, same thing. When we turn around, we look at Joseph, same thing. Same thing. Same thing. So then we sit back and look at that. When we look at judgment, judgment and faith go hand in hand. Because there's no way you're going to be able to execute judgment and you lack faith. And there's no way you're going to be able to have faith and lack judgment. These two things are hand in hand. We have to turn around and see that and know that and understand that. Especially if our desire is to be heard. Because these lighter matters of the law, we can iron them things out very easily. Very easily. But these heavier matters, oh no. You know, them things that they easy, but they not easy because it's going to take a restriction of self to be able to do them. And if you're not willing to restrict self, then you're not going to be able to do them. and 21. These things hast thou done, and I kept silence, though thou thought that I was altogether such as one as thyself. But I will reprove thee, and set them in order before thine eyes. Now consider this, ye that forget Elohim, lest I tear you in pieces, and there be none to deliver. That's the same thing when you turn around and you look at Ephraim with Jephthah, he that opens, because they thought altogether that Jephthah was as one of them. But he reproved them before their eyes, and they had forgot Elohim, and he tore them to pieces. We're going to sit back and look at how Mashiach, once he shut that door, okay, you thought altogether that I was just like you, but in the end, I'm going to tear you to pieces, because you have forgotten me. And you know what ends up causing you to forget Elohim? When you sit back and you look at that, you love those that hate Yah, or you do what he tell you, not to make a covenant with the people of the land, not to be unequally yoked with unbelievers, because unbelievers will cause you to forget your Elohim. This is what got Solomon in trouble. This is what got Yasharal in trouble. This is what got us in trouble in the time of Samuel, even asking for a king, because we sought to want to be like the people. So that corrupted us, and we ended up forgetting our Elohim because we wanted the things that were of man. We didn't judge properly. That's why he say set your affections on the things that are above and not the things that are on the earth. We're not judging properly. We're judging according to dust and ashes and not the things that are eternal. When you judge things based on flesh, you're going to get flesh. When you judge things based on Ruach, you're going to get Ruach. So it all boils down to, I put before you life and death, or blessings and cursings, life and death. Therefore choose life, that you and your seed may live. It comes down to that. What is more important to you? What is your desire at when you judge a matter? Do you know what I'm saying? When you judge things. Verse 23 said, whosoever offer praise glorify me, and to him that order his behavior aright will I shew the salvation of Elohim. So now we have to turn around and look at it. He that orders his behavior aright. He that's going to be able to sit back and judge how I need to restrict myself. I can see Yahuwah. I can see Yahushua, to be specific, which will cause you to see Yahuwah. You will see the salvation of Elohim, which means you will see the Son. That's why he told Paul that. I will cause you to see that just one and to hear his voice. Because if you don't see the Son, how are you going to see the salvation of Elohim? You don't see the Son because you keep no Shabbats. You don't see the Son because you keep a feast day. You don't see the Son because you don't eat pork. That doesn't cause you to see him. You understand what I'm saying? What causes you to see him is faith. What causes you to see him is mercy. What causes you to see him is judgment. What causes you to see him is executing justice. What causes you to see him is suffering in the flesh, denial, taking up your state. What causes you to see him is to die to the flesh, but to be quickened by the Ruach, to live to Elohim. This is what causes you to see him. This is what's going to cause him to hear you. This is what's going to cause you to be with him. That's why I say those weightier matters of the law, right? So the weighty matters of the law that's going to cause you to cleanse the inside of the cup and not to be looking like withered sepulchres, which indeed appear beautiful unto men, but inside are full of uncleanness and dead men's bones, having a form of godliness, but denying the power thereof. That's what we turn around and look at. You not showing forth no power of Elohim because you don't eat no swine, because you don't eat shrimp and lobsters. You know what I'm saying? That's not the power of Elohim. Those are the lighter matters of the law. Those things are easy to do. That's not going to cause him to hear you. What's causing him not to hear you is you think like your oppressor. You think like a Gentile. You think like a Caucasian. You think like an African. You think like an Arab. You don't think like a Yahudim. You don't move in the operation of faith. You don't move in the operation of justice and judgment. You don't move in the operation of mercy. Therefore, you're not of him. He can't hear you. He wants you to be like him. When he tell you in Romans chapter 8, I want you to be conformed into the image of his son. He said you were predestinated for this cause and this purpose. To be sealed with the Ruach HaKodesh, it takes to sit back and look at, I want to be like Yahuwah. That's why he said, let that mind be in you that was in Yahusha, to not think it be robbery to make yourself equal with Elohim. I want to be like him. We can't be like him when we lustful, when we disobedient, when we stubborn, when we rebellious, when we got wrong judgment, when we self-willed, when it's all these things going through our head. We can't be like that. Unbelieving, fearful. You know what I'm saying? You can't be like him because all these things are contrary to him. When we turn around and we look at, we take on the attributes that are of him, and you can get your Deuteronomy 1 and 16. Make it 14 while we at it. When you turn around and you look at, you want to make yourself like him, and get your Leviticus 19 and 15 as well. When you turn around and you look at, you want to be like him, then you got to judge accordingly. We see that same instance when we look at Eve. She didn't judge properly because she thus judged, though Elohim has told me that I will die. My desire is to do this. You know what I'm saying? Therefore, when I looked at it, I made the wrong decision because what I needed was not as important as what I wanted, because what I want will make me feel good. You know what I'm saying? Versus what I need will get me where I need to be. Wrong judgment. The flesh will always choose what feels good. You know what I'm saying? Always. Never fails. Deuteronomy 1 and 14. Let me see what it says. Let me make it 13 though. Make it 12. Matter of fact, make it 9. It'll tie into something else that I've been talking about. He said, I speak unto you at that time, saying, I am not able to bear you myself alone. That's why you turn around and you look at, like, you know, the increase in people. Like one man, like if it's not a lot of people in the congregation, one man can handle it. You know what I'm saying? But as it gets bigger, one man can't handle it. This is also going back when he's saying, bear ye one another's burdens, fulfilling the Torah of Mashiach. That's written in Galatians. Because this man said, I'm not able to take this alone. That's one of the biggest mistakes that we turn around and look at when we say we in the body of Mashiach. We look at, I'm going to handle stuff alone. Or when you see somebody going through something, you let them and you leave them alone to it. You know what I'm saying? When there are some things that you can't bear alone. Like I'm sitting back looking at my whole entire life, I've been used to bearing things alone. You know what I'm saying? And for the first time, even dealing with stuff while I've been in the Word and teaching people the Word, still bearing things alone just because that's just what I was used to. And it took a certain situation and circumstance to cause me to be like, okay, I don't have to be alone. There's no weakness and vulnerability in saying that I need somebody. Even when you look at Mashiach, he did not bear that burden alone when he went up there to pray. When it was time for him to die, he took his apostles with him because I can't bear this alone. So when we turn around and we look at it, we say we are part of this man's members and a part of his body, and you see one of the members going through something, you supposed to see that's Mashiach going through something, and you supposed to not be like how Peter, James, and John were and was asleep while he was going through what he was going through. He said, you couldn't even watch with me for 1 hour. You couldn't even carry this with me for 60 minutes. You couldn't even be there for me. At this time I needed you, and you were not there for me. You know what I'm saying? Moses sitting back looking at, I got all this stuff on my shoulders. I can't carry this stuff by myself. You know what I'm saying? Now I'm saying this to say this here, right? Even though it might be close to it. As a man, like I'm saying, now I can't speak for some of y'all because y'all are younger and your generation may have not taught. You know what I'm saying? You younger generation of men may have not had been taught this. You know what I'm saying? But my generation was taught that a man just never let him see you cry, never let him see you sweat. You know what I'm saying? Handle all this stuff by yourself. Don't show no emotion. Don't ask for no help. Just get it done and figure out how to get it done. Carry the whole world on your shoulders. You know what I'm saying? Carry all that weight on your shoulders and don't ask for no help. And when you turn around and you actually look at it, like what Corey was mentioning before we even got started, we already, when we looking at being a victim of America and being under constant attack and warfare from these people, we walk around with post-traumatic stress syndrome on the daily. You know what I'm saying? Like the black woman has no idea what a black man face. Then don't let you be an intelligent black man or an opinionator or outspoken black man or a black man with any level of conviction or love for his people. You already classify an enemy. Because if you're a black man with intelligence, but yet they see that you will not kowtow and bend down to them, the white folks don't want nothing to do with you. You know what I'm saying? See, they don't mind if you're smart, but they want you to be an old buck dancing Sambo nigga though. You know what I'm saying? They want you to be the nigga that's gonna dance around and move. They don't like black men of strength. They don't want you to they don't want to put you in a position to do anything, only for one reason and one reason alone, because they believe you're going to pull up your other people. You know what I'm saying? Like back in the day, the Black Panthers would join the army just to get the skill on certain combat training, then get out of the army and come back to the neighborhoods and teach everybody in the hood what they learned. The white folks don't like stuff like that. Why do you think when you look at certain black people that are in certain positions, like dudes were saying, I was reading the article, I've been read the article. He was talking about how Michael Jordan has hired more black executives than anybody. You know what I'm saying? But when you look at it, that's a good thing. It's not a bad thing. But then you turn around and look at it, he's actually never came and invested in black neighborhoods. Is he obligated to do it? No. If you're a person who loves your people and that you want to see your people come about the situation that they're in, then you would naturally want to do it. He's not obligated to do it. You know what I'm saying? But most black people feel like only because the other races do this. You know what I'm saying? That when one of their people hit a certain level of success, I'm going to turn back around and I'm going to get the rest of mine. You know what I'm saying? Now when you look at Mashiach, that's what he did. He opened the door to salvation to turn around and get the rest of us so we could come into it. You know what I mean? So we turn around and we look at that if a certain black person reaches a certain level of success, we expect them to do that. But when we turn around and look at it, Russell Simmons don't do that. Oprah doesn't do that. Jordan hasn't done that. Robert Johnson hasn't done that. Because with just those people whom I just named, which three of them are reportedly billionaires. That's Robert Johnson, that's Oprah Winfrey, that's Michael Jordan. Reportedly, they're billionaires. You know what I'm saying? That there's a way that our people should not be in a situation and circumstance that they in if we look at all these wealthy black people pool their resources together. It doesn't have to be like they got to hit every city, you know what I'm saying, in America. But then you can turn around and look at it, Atlanta and San Francisco and Chicago and New Orleans and certain spots in New York and certain spots in VA and DC and Miami, you know what I'm saying? Even Jacksonville to a certain extent, just because of all the athletes, NFL athletes anyway, that come from here. You know what I'm saying? That there could be a lot of things where our people are not in the situation that we in, but we don't look at each other like that. Because we feel like I did it on my own, I ain't worried about y'all. You know what I'm saying? Or we turn around and we look at, we'll cleave to the wrong people. You know what I'm saying? We'll cleave to the wrong people. Not sitting back looking at, when we turn around and we look at y'all, right, I'll give an example. I was talking to a brother about this. When we came out the wilderness, right, I'll show you I'm just giving you an example of bad judgment. We're not going to sit back and read all this stuff here because y'all already know the story. When we look at bad judgment, right, when we come up out of Mizraim, right, we go in the wilderness, right, Yahuwah is bringing us in the wilderness for what? To get us prepared to enter into the land, right? But when we were going through all these things where he was humbling us and he was suffering us to hunger, do you know that people felt like y'all was mistreating them? He said, what did you bring us out here for, to die? Oh, he brought us out here, we ain't got no water. Why is he doing us like this? You know what I'm saying? Where's the meat at? Where's the bread? Why are we out here? They judged it wrong and took it as mistreatment. You know what I'm talking about? When actually this man loved them with an undying love, but he was trying to get them out of the mind frame, because you got to understand something. They coming up out of Mizraim, so you know what they have? They have an Egyptian mind state. You know what I'm talking about? They think like the Egyptians thought. They didn't think like a Yahudim because they didn't know what a Yahudim was. You can sit back and look at it. When y'all came down on that mountain and spoke to them people with all that thunders and lightning and earthquake, they were terrified. They say, don't let him talk to us no more. Say, man, let Moses talk to her. We don't want all of you to talk to her unless we die, because of the power that he spoke with. You know what I'm saying? It terrified these people. So then when you turn around and look at, that's when you sit back looking at it, right? That's why we had looked at it a while back. Like, I wouldn't know how I would react. I can't even tell you how I would react if I actually heard the voice of Elohim like they heard it. You know what I'm saying? You're going to be terrified. You're going to be terrified. Because if these people heard his voice on that mountain and they say, man, we don't want to talk to him no more. Let Moses talk to him unless we die. Then I know the level of power with this man speak with is going to stop you in your tracks. You know what I'm saying? Like you see dudes, boy, I'll fight a demon. But then you see Daniel seeing a Malachim and he fell out. You know what I'm talking about? Paralyzed, stiff, like can't even move. Like you can't even say what would you do if you seen a Malachim. You've seen a messenger. How could you react to something like that you don't see like that? You're going to be in awe. You're going to be terrified. You know what I'm saying? So then when you sit back and you're looking at it, right? This is the same way. That's why he say, come out of my people, that you don't be partakers of a plagues, right? And I can go into that in more detail. Because you sit back and you look at it. He put the plagues on Mizraim. It was showing us then that plagues that's put on Mizraim is a foreshadow of what's happening in Babylon to come out of her. You know what I'm saying? That you're going to be a partaker of the things that I'm going to put on her. The difference is that while Yasharal was in the midst of Mizraim, he protected them from the plagues hitting them. Why did he protect them from the plagues hitting them? Because he had not manifested himself to them. So in his righteous judgment, he was able to spare Yasharal, because I can't execute judgment on you when you don't know me. You know what I'm saying? You have not learned of me. You have not heard of me. I have not manifested myself to you, nor taught you of my ways. But these wicked bastards are going to feel me, because I have prepared them as vessels made for destruction. You know what I'm talking about? So when we're coming up out of that and we're coming in the wilderness, you're coming out of a captive mind state. So therefore I have to take you and humble you to see who actually is going to serve me. So when we look at what they were going through, they looked at what they were going through as if Yah was mistreating them, as if he did not love them. That's what they said. We ain't got no water. You know what I'm saying? He brought us out here to die while we out here. We had cucumbers, leeks, and melons. It's better that we go back. It's better for me to go back to what I know and what I'm accustomed to and what I like than to venture into an area of something that I know is best for me, that I know that is needed for me, but it's so drastically different than what I'm used to that I would rather recline back to what I am accustomed. You know what I'm saying? This is what you sit back and you look at it, see, that's wrong judgment. That's what ends up happening to us a lot of time when we sit back and we look at it is when you seeking to be strengthened and quickened by the Ruach and abandoning in the flesh. A lot of time people go back to the flesh because let me go back to what I am accustomed to, because this is what I'm used to and I like it. It makes me feel good. It makes me happy. It makes me feel better. Not realizing what you're falling back to is actually holding you captive. You know what I'm saying? When actually going towards Yahuwah and what you need in the framework and the suffering and tribulation that he's taking you through is actually going to free you. But we're not looking at it in that fashion, because all we're looking at it is my flesh is not being satisfied. Y'all understand what I'm saying? It's not being satisfied. Therefore, I'm not looking at it in the right aspect. I hope that made sense. I'm going to read verse 9 again, though. And I spake unto you at that time, saying, I am not able to bear you myself alone. Yahuwah your Elohim hath multiplied you. Behold, you are as this day as the stars of Shamahim for multitude. Yahuwah Elohim of your fathers made you 1,000 times so many more as ye are, and Baruch you as he hath promised you. How can I myself alone bear your cumbrance and your burden and your strife? Take ye wise men and understanding and known among your tribes, and I will make them rulers over you. And ye answered me and said, the thing which thou hast spoken is good for us to do. So I took the chief of your tribes, wise men and known, and made them heads over you. Captains over thousands, captains over hundreds, captains over 50s, captains over 10s, and officers among your tribes. If y'all ever heard it in one West camps and you hear them saying somebody's a captain or an officer, this is where they get it from. It is book where they getting it from. It's not an office in Mashiach, but that's where they get it from. And I charged your judges at that time, saying, hear the causes between your brethren, and judge righteously between every man and his brother, and the stranger that is with him. Now, I had told some of y'all the other day, if y'all got an issue with somebody, because after a while, that's why it's like sometimes it's good to just go ahead and sit it down and judge it and do it just like that. Y'all got an issue with somebody or there's a matter, instead of all the stuff like dealing here, just bring it before and let somebody judge it. And I'll tell you, I can tell you, even it ain't even got to include me. And when I say it ain't got to include me is I can take the least honorable one amongst us and let them judge it. You know what I'm saying? I don't have to judge it. Y'all understand what I'm saying? Like I'm telling you, I don't have to be the one to judge it. I can let somebody else judge it. But if you're going to judge it, you're going to have to judge it righteously. You're going to have to judge it according to the word. You're going to have to justify the righteous party, and you're going to have to condemn the party that's wicked. That's what it said, but in all actuality, whoever's right is right, and whoever's wrong is wrong. You know what I'm saying? It's bottom line. It doesn't matter who it is. It doesn't matter about your personal feelings with that person, or none of that. That was some of y'all don't sit back and realize a lot of times y'all think somebody going to be judging something because they speaking from a personal opinion. You know what I'm talking about? And sometimes the only reason why you think somebody's speaking a personal opinion because they're not telling you what you want to hear. Now, don't get me wrong. Some people may do that at times. You know what I'm talking about? But that man said you got to judge righteously. So that means if you don't judge righteously in a matter, then guess what you just did? You just sinned, didn't you? So to judge according to personal opinion in the Bible, to pervert judgment, that's not worth going to hell for. You know what I'm saying? It's not. That's not worth going to hell for. Again, this is showing you how this is a weightier matter of law, because the law says you got to judge stuff righteously. So what else he say now? He said, you shall not respect persons in judgment, but you shall hear the small as well as the great. You shall not be afraid of the face of man, for the judgment is Elohim's. And the cause that is too hard for you, bring it unto me, and I will hear it. So you know what that ends up meaning? Okay, if I'm the one supposed to be the head over everybody, right? That means I can set y'all up and let you can get 1 Corinthians chapter 6 real quick. I can set y'all up and let y'all judge it, and if it's too hard for you, then you can come bring it to me. Why should I have to be the one to sit back and judge every single solitary matter when y'all are just as capable of doing it? But you're going to have to sit back and look at it. You can't be afraid of the person that's standing in front of you. And you can't sit back and look at, well, that's such and such, or that's such and such. You're going to have to judge right, because the judgment is of Elohim. That means the judgment is according to the word. You know what I'm telling you? The righteous judgment is like we read in Deuteronomy chapter 4. It's according to the word. If it's wrong, you wrong. And if you're wrong, you need to just go on and get in line with it. Don't sit back and do what most people do and try to seek somebody else out to justify what you want. First Corinthians chapter 6, verse 1. And we'll come back to 2 Chronicles 19, and we still hold Leviticus 19. He say, this is 1 Corinthians 6 and 1. 1 Corinthians 6 and 1. He say, dare any of you, having a matter against another, go to law before the unjust and not before the Kadeshim? You sit back and realize you got a striving over the law with somebody, and you'll go to a sinner before you go to the sanctified ones. You'll go to somebody who's outside the body before coming to somebody that's inside the body. Boy, Yahudim ain't never done that. That's not the way of Yahuwah. You don't go to outsiders. That's unjust. Let's see what Paul said now. Do you not know that the Kadeshim shall judge the world? And if the world shall be judged by you, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Know ye not that we shall judge Malachim? How much more things that pertain to this life? If then ye have judgments of things pertaining to this life, set them to judge who are least esteemed in the body. That's why I said I'll take the least honorable person amongst us and let them judge it. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'll do. I'll get the least honorable person among and let them judge. And you know where we get that from? Because when we look at King Saul, he said he was the least in his father's house, didn't he? When you look at Gideon, he said he was the least in his father's house. And Yah set him up to be a judge. That's where Paul get this from. That's why I made that statement that I said before I even read this. Because I know what the law says. I know what the Tanakh say. I know what the epistles say. I know how to handle that. Let the least person that's the least esteemed, the least honorable person, let them judge it. But y'all don't even sit back and realize y'all don't even want to come amongst one another and sit down and do stuff like the book say do it. Because that's how you'll get to the end of things and things can be squashed. That if anybody got aught with one another, you bring it in front of the body, let the body judge it. Once the judgment been made, you move accordingly and it's over with. You know what I'm saying? That's why Moshe said if you got a problem with your brother, bring it to him and bring it to him alone. And if he won't hear you, get 2 or 3 witnesses. And if they won't hear them, take them before the body. And if they won't hear the body, treat him like a heathen man publicly. I mean, I don't mess with you. But y'all don't even want to even go to that aspect of doing it. You want to still continue to do it like you've always done it. Instead of let's just do it how the law say do it. We do it how the law say do it, we'll get further. Be a lot easier. He said, I speak to your shame. Is it so that there is not a wise man amongst you? No, not one that shall be able to judge between his brethren. But brother go to law with brother, and that before the unbelievers. Now therefore there is utterly a fault amongst you, because ye go to law one with another. Why do you not rather take wrong? Why do you not rather suffer yourselves to be defrauded? Nay, you do wrong and defraud, and that your brethren. So you know you defrauded your brother. Say you're going to go to law and with that amongst unbelievers. Now he's talking about the body. He's talking about a congregation, a body of people in Corinth. That they got issues with one another and they arguing against another by you did this and you did that and you did this and you did that, and they doing it in front of sinners instead of, he said, there's not one wise man you can get who can judge this. Not one. Not one. Well, let's look at Leviticus 19 and 15 and let's sit back and see what your law tell you to do. That's why Paul was going off right then, 19 and 15. He was going off right there because judgment is serious. You know what I'm saying? If you know how to make the right decision, then you'll be good. Because we know from Genesis of Bereshit 18 and 19, he said he knew Abraham that he would teach his household justice and judgment. And we know from Ephesians chapter 4, he said you have not so learned if you have heard of Yahushua. And if you have been taught of him and you know him, then you will put off the former behavior of the old man and put on the new man, which was renewed in righteousness and in true Kadesh. That means he's going to teach his household justice and judgment. He is going to teach you how to make the right decisions. He's going to lead you in the way that you ought to go. But when you look at making the right decisions, are you making decisions based off your lust? Or are you making decisions based off the word? Because a lot of time, man, people make decisions based off their lust. That I'm going to do what I want to do. I don't care what you say. I don't care what the words say. Because my desire to do what I want to do is greater. Let's look at 19 and 15. You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. Thou shalt not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty. But in righteousness shalt thou judge thy neighbor. So again, this is reiterated. This is in our law. This is what they say. This is the weighted amount of the law. You shall not do any unrighteousness in judgment. Meaning you can't turn around in judgment and say what you want to say. And you can't have no respect to persons. But you're going to have to do it in righteousness. You're going to have to do it in what's right according. Let's look at Deuteronomy 6 and 25 before we come back to Leviticus 19 and 35. We got to turn around and just look at that. I just want this to sit back and just look at this in your mind, but we'll look at 21 just to read it from 21 and on down. Because I'm looking at this for a reason. I'm taking this track for a reason. Not really trying to go real deep or with a whole lot of similitudes on a lot of stuff this evening. Just really trying to reiterate what judgment does. Judgment will cause you to look at things in a righteous and upright fashion. You know what I'm saying? It will cause you to make the proper decision in whatever it is that you do. You know what I'm talking about? Because if you don't, then the judgment for transgressing the statutes can fall upon your head. You know what I'm saying? This is what is trying to be avoided. And then looking at when you judge. You can't judge based off your personal opinion, your personal feelings, a personal bias, or any thought process that's in your mind. You can't judge according to that. Because now you've committed unrighteousness and judgment and you have sinned, and now you've made the judgment of man. You understand what I'm telling you? And not a judgment that's because it's Elohim's. See, that's a serious thing when you judge. You can't take the judgment and make it your own. It has to remain Elohim's. It has to. That's why he said there's not a wise man among you. Don't you realize in the law when we read in Deuteronomy, he said get wise men to go do it? That means if somebody to judge them out of you, make sure that person got wisdom. That they got coat money. They know how to fight. That they know how to war. That they understand the battle. And can subdue that. And a lot of times, people think people can't do that. Like I can sit before somebody and they tell me, okay, to a certain extent, I just did that recently. You know what I'm saying? Hearing out a matter and hearing the judgment of people as it pertains to how they view a particular matter. And took it all in. Not sitting back looking at, this person said that because of this, or this person even said that because of this. Because I don't want somebody to tell me what I want to hear. Just go ahead and tell me what I need to hear so I can give me your judgment on the matter in an upright, just fashion so that I can hear it, take it, and adjust as necessary. You know what I'm saying? And adjust as necessary. Because you're going to have to sit back and do that. You know what I'm saying? I can handle it. I can do that. It's not a problem. Even if it may not be necessarily something that you want to hear. We turn around and you look at that, and we can go back and look at Peter with Paul. When Paul came and straightened Peter, he came to him and he didn't show no unrighteousness and judgment when he said you ought to be blamed. You don't walk upright according to the law. He judged his neighbor accordingly. He didn't sit back and look at, that's Peter upon whom the rock, I'm going to build my house. He looked at it and said, Peter needed to be judged. Peter, you wrong for this. Peter was able to accept that judgment. Deuteronomy 6 and 21. Then thou shalt say unto thy son, we were Pharaoh's bondmen in Mizraim. And Yahuwah brought us out of Mizraim with a mighty hand. Yahuwah showed signs and wonders and great sore upon Mizraim, upon Pharaoh, and upon all his household before our eyes. And he brought us out from thence, that he might bring us in and give us this land, which he sware unto our fathers. And Yahuwah commanded us to do all these statutes, and to fear Yahuwah our Elohim, for our good always, that he might preserve us alive as it is this day. And it shall be our righteousness if we observe to do all these commandments before you are Yahuwah our Elohim, as he hath commanded us. So when we turn around and look at, we're not going to do no unrighteousness and judgment. No unrighteousness and judgment is just that we're going to do all these things according to his law. So when we judge any matter, we're going to have to judge it according to his law, correct? I'm going to show you an example of that before we move further. Luke chapter 7. I'm going to show you an example of judgment and judging it according to the law. Luke chapter 7. And I'm going to show you Hamashiach putting it in the hands of one of his disciples for him to judge it. Luke chapter 7. Forgive me because we're going to read a little more verses than I would like to read. I'll just read 39. I ain't going to do all that. Well, I got to read 36 and start it right up because I just want y'all to hear the whole thing. Luke 7 and 36. And one of the Pharisees desired him that he would eat with him. And he went into the Pharisee's house and sat down to meat. And behold, a woman in the city which was a sinner, when she knew that Yahushua sat at meat in the Pharisee's house, brought an alabaster box of ointment, and stood at his feet behind him weeping, and began to wash his feet with tears, and did wipe them with the hairs of her head, and kissed his feet, and anointed them with the ointment. Now when the Pharisee which had bidden him saw it, he spake within himself, saying, This man, if he were a prophet, would have known who and what manner of woman this is that touch him, for she is a sinner. So you see the first thing that was wrong in his judgment? No compassion and mercy there. None. Right then and there, he's already shown wrong judgment, because Yah doesn't judge according to that. He says, And Yahushua answering said unto him, Simon, I have somewhat to say unto thee. And he said, Master, say on. There was a certain creditor which had two debtors, the one ought 500 pence and the other 50. And when they had nothing to pay, he frankly forgave them both. Tell me therefore which of them will love him most. Simon answered and said, I suppose that he to whom he forgave most. And he said unto him, Thou hast rightly judged. So he gave him a scenario, didn't he? One owed 500, one owed 50. Peter, which one do you think would love him the most? He said the one that he forgave the most. He said, you know what, you judged right, Peter. You made the right choice. You made the right decision. You know what I'm saying? Now just follow what I'm working towards, son. And he turned to the woman and said unto Simon, See thou this woman? I entered into thine house, and thou gave me no water for my feet. But she hath washed my feet with tears, and wiped them with the hairs of her head. Thou gave me no kiss. But this woman, since the time I came in, have not ceased to kiss my feet. My head with oil thou did not anoint, but this woman hath anointed my feet with ointment. Wherefore I say unto thee, her sins, which are many, are forgiven. For she loved much. But to whom little is forgiven, the same love little. And he said unto her, Thy sins are forgiven. And as they sat at meat with him, they began to say within themselves, Who is this that forgives sins also? And he said unto that woman, Thy faith hath saved thee. Go and shalom. Now, I want you to look at Proverbs 13 and 7 and then work your way to 1 Peter chapter 4 and about verse 7. Now sit back. I want you to look at the judgment of Elohim. Let's sit back and look at the weightier matters of the law. And you see what got her saved? You see what got her sins forgiven? It was her belief, then, wasn't it? She seen the Son of Elohim and she believed. And she manifested to have mercy and compassion on him. Because he say, greater love had no man than this. A man lay his life down for his friends. He said, if you abide in my commandments, as I abide in my Father's commandments, then he will love you as I have loved you. So you turn around and look at this woman. This woman sitting back looking at, I'm weeping. I'm washing my feet. She came with a humble heart. That's why they say, humble yourself before Elohim, and he will exalt you in due time. This is what she did. She rightly judged that this was the man who could forgive her. Her faith was that strong that she felt the need to do these things unto him. As she began to do these things unto him, this is why he asked Peter, who do you think is going to love him the most? Him that had more to be forgiven, or him that had least to be forgiven? Because she did all these things, and he told her, woman, thy sins are forgiven. Thy faith has saved thee. Do you not think that she was going to walk in the love of Elohim and keep his commandments after that? Don't you think that's what she was going to do? Her faith saved her. The just shall walk in their faith. The just shall live in faith. Her faith, her belief saved her. Not just, not that Christian stuff I believe and I'm saved. I believe, therefore, I will manifest that in my behavior. I will manifest that in my lifestyle. But look what he say here in Proverbs 13 and 7. It's not 13 and 7. It's this. It's 13 and 10. Yeah, I forgot, so it's been so long since I read it. Excuse me, let me see which one it is. 13 and 7. I'm calling 7. 7 ain't what I want. That sounds a little different. Let's go over to 1 Peter 4 and 7. I just was finna read the verse where it come from, but it's slipping my mind where it's at. Come over here to 1 Peter 4 and 7. It'll come to my mind in a minute. And I'll be able to remember to tell you the same. I always remember that verse. Never forgot it. What it says, but I don't forgot where it's at. Till it's been a long time since I read that one. 1 Peter 4 and 7 though. get around there to it. Listen what Peter finna tell you. He say, but at the end of all things, the end of all things is at hand. Be ye therefore sober and watch unto prayer. He says, and above all things have fervent charity among yourselves, for charity shall cover a multitude of sins. I'm going to sit back and tell you something. To have that love, that's what's going to cover your sins. To have that love out of him, that's going to cover your sins. A lot of people don't sit back and realize that her love that she showed and she manifested towards him, that's what covered her sins. You sit back and look at what you think is going to cover your sins. That's Proverbs 10 and 12 that I wanted. I said 13. Look, come over here to 10 and 12. And it'll tie into something else that we were looking at already. 10 and 12. Make it 11 though. 10 and 11. And it says, the mouth of the righteous man is a well of life, but violence cover the mouth of the wicked. Well, we already know what Mashai told that woman at the well, right? If you would have known who it was you would have spoke of, then what he told her, you would have asked of him and he would have gave you water of life, right? She say, sir, you don't have no well, you don't have no nothing to draw with. Because you sit back and look at the mouth of the righteous, of a righteous man, is a well of life. You know, we talk about him being that well when we talk about draw ye water from the well of salvation. And you turn around and look at it, that if a man had the word of Yahuwah in his mouth, he's a righteous man. His words are well of life. That's why he said the words that I speak unto you, they are ruach and they are life. The flesh profit nothing. You're not going to get no gain from dealing with the flesh. This is pertaining to judgment. Carnal desire, carnal lust, carnal thinking, all that type of stuff, no gain. You're not going to be able to judge properly. So you're not even going to look at the well of life that's coming out of any man, righteous man's mouth, because the words that are coming out of his mouth are ruach and they are life. Why he say, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. Since I said that right there. Because I seen Pale went into this the other day. Since I said that right there. Since I said that right there. Come on around here to Deuteronomy. Come on around here to Deuteronomy 34, man. Deuteronomy 34. You hold the Proverbs 10. We come back. See, that faith in Yahuwah, man, that's what's going to pull that for you to be able to judge right. Make it 34 and photo. Deuteronomy 34 and 4. And it says, Yahuwah said unto him, this is the land which I swear unto Abraham, unto Isaac, and unto Jacob, saying, I will give it unto thy seed. I have caused thee to see it with thine eyes, but thou shalt not go over thither. Moses, the servant of Yahuwah, died there in the land of Moab, according to the word of Yahuwah. And he buried him in the valley of the land of Moab, over against Beth Peor. But no man know of his sepulchre unto this day. And Moses was 120 years old when he died. His eyes were not dimmed, nor his natural force abated. What y'all think that means when he say his natural force was not abated? Anybody got any idea? Anybody gonna help me out? Or is everybody going to remain silent and I'm gonna just have to deal with it no more? Yeah, he still had a strength. Now we're going to look at the word for it. It says, listen what it says, right? The word for natural in this instance is la'ak. And it means moisture, freshness, and vigor. You know, vigor is your strength or your power. Do you notice that one of the words that for that is moisture? Why would it be important that it says moisture? The water, the ruach, that even in his death, that had not subsided. That had not gone away. So let's look at something else. 2 Corinthians chapter 5. Now, Moses got in trouble because he didn't rightly judge. Because of his frustration with the people, he smote the rock instead of speaking to the rock. Actually, 2 Corinthians chapter 4 and verse 16. That's what it says. For which cause we faint not, but though our outward man perish, yet the inward man is renewed day by day. Remember, the Ruach of Elohim was upon Moses. And though you even sit back and you look at that, his outward man perished, his natural force never abated because Yahuwah was in him. He was strengthened day by day. This is why you turn around and you can see him upon the mount with Mashiach when Mashiach was transfigured. Because even though his outward man perished, he was renewed. We see that in Matthew 17. He was renewed. Right? He said, for our light affliction, which is but for a moment, work for us a far more exceeding and eternal weight of esteem. While we look not at the things which are seen, but at the things which are not seen. For the things which are seen are temporal, but the things which are not seen are eternal. Again, this is going so back when you looking at judgment, that we walk by faith and not sight. Because you look at what you can see. So when you look at what you can see, that's that temporal mind. It's like we talked about Wednesday, about seeing gods coming out of the earth. You know what I'm saying? Are you going to have a celestial mind or terrestrial mind? Are you going to be of this world or are you going to be not of this world? What type of mind are you going to have? Are you going to have a carnal mind or a spiritual mind? Is your natural force going to be abated? Or is it going to continue to abide? Let's look at Job 40 and 12. And all this is going to, once you made a decision that you judge that you're going to serve Yahuwah your Elohim, then of course in his word is going to have to abide in you, where you continue to serve him continually. Look on what he tell you now. Make it 11. Make it 9. He said, hast thou an arm like Elohim, or can thou thunder with a voice like him? Only reason why I read that is because remember we read that there about in Exodus, right, the thunder, right? Then you go back and look in John, right, when Mashiach was praying to the Father and he say, Father, esteem thy name. He said, I will esteem it, I'll do it again. And the people said it sounded like thunder. You know what I'm saying? Because who can thunder like him? Because when Elohim speaks, it moves something. Like when that word comes, it's supposed to move you. It's something supposed to hit you. You know what I'm saying? I can remember a young lady I knew, man, years back. We were talking, and she used to look at GOCC all the time. And she'd be like, well, because I can get amped up when I be preaching. You know what I'm saying? I ain't amped up right now. You know what I'm saying? It could be times where I ain't amped up, and it could be times where I could be going in, you know what I'm saying? And you'll sit back and think, somebody come out like, there's something wrong with that nigga. He hollering, he yelling, he spitting all over the place. See, having a seizure, what's wrong with him? You know what I'm saying? And she'll be like, well, he don't talk like that. That's what she used to tell me. I'm like, yeah, he don't. I see other people who do, but I said at the same time, this nigga telling lies, though. This nigga sleeps with men's wives. This man eats women's vaginas. This man hustles and defrauds people on a regular basis. And the judgment that you pertaining, and I'm just referring to this particular situation, the judgment that she was pertaining on whether he was righteous or not was based on how he spoke. When even though he spoke with a calm tone, he was wicked. He was wicked. You know what I'm saying? And you had to turn around here and then not even talking about the things that he teaches. You know what I'm saying? Because this nigga teaches some of the most outrageous things that you could ever want to hear. Nevertheless, let's continue on. What was that? He said, deck thyself now with majesty and excellency, and array thyself with esteem and beauty. Now, we talked about this not too long ago, or at least I had it in my mind too. I may have not told y'all about it. But we want to deck ourselves with Hamashiach. I did talk about that a little bit in the street last week. Put ye on Yahushua HaMashiach and make no provisions of the flesh to fulfill the lust thereof. Because when you put the Son on, you'll be able to judge correctly on what's right and what's wrong, because he would have taught you, don't do that. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do that. You know what I'm saying? This is how you judge. This is how you look at things, particularly in this matter. Is this bringing you to me or away from me? You know what I'm saying? Because if the words are a well of life, it's going to bring you to him. If the actions are a well of life, it's going to bring you to him. If people are doing things that's taking you away from him, it's going to take you away from him. You're not going to get the way you at. I'm going to also show you an example of that also a woman can judge righteously. And we're going to look at a situation where a woman made a statement and y'all confirmed that women judge righteously. So please don't think that a woman can't judge righteously, because also we seen that Deborah was a judge, right? And you know, judges judge matters. So so I'm saying that for y'all to know that don't think as if there's a matter that come up for judgment that we couldn't take a woman and let her judge it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't talking about sitting back reading no book or teaching no law. I'm just saying letting a woman judge a matter. But the only way that woman could be able to judge that matter, she gonna have to be wise. If she don't know the book, she can't do it. You know what I'm saying? If you brothers don't know the book, you can't do it. How can you be able to, he said you got to be wise. The fear of Yahuwah is the beginning of wisdom. You know what I'm saying? So if you don't even fear Yah to even reverence his word and know his word to fear with trembling and to work out your salvation, how could you be able to judge anything? Because when certain matters are going to come up, you're going to judge it based off your vain opinion. You know what I'm saying? And not off the word. So what he says, cast abroad the rage of thy wrath, and behold everyone that is proud, and abase him. Look on everyone that is proud, and bring him low. Tread down the wicked in their place. Hide them in the dust together, and bind their faces in secret. Then will I also confess unto thee that thy own right hand can save thee. He said, when you're able to do that, then you can know you can save yourself. Then you know you don't have no need for no savior. You don't have no need for a word. You don't have no need for no judgment. You don't have no need to follow it. He said, behold now behemoth, which I made with thee, he eat grass as an ox. Hold on. This something came to my mind. You see how he said he eat grass as an ox? Come over here about 1 Timothy. This whole list we just running right back. He said he eat grass as an ox. Is it 1 Timothy chapter 5? Let's see 1 Timothy chapter 5. Yeah, 1 Timothy chapter 5, verse 17. Now I'm sitting back looking at it and just understand why we come here, because we're not coming here for what you might think is what we come here for. 1 Timothy 5 and 17. He said, let the elders that rule well be counted worthy of double honor, especially they who labor in word and doctrine. For the scripture saith, thou shalt not muzzle the ox that tread out the corn, and the labor is worthy of his reward. Remember he said, the behemoth, I brought you out, the ox that eat the grass. Reason why he sit back and look at this is because he said, don't muzzle the ox that tread out the corn. When you sit back and you look at it, they wanted to muzzle Mashiach's voices. They didn't want him to preach. They didn't want him to speak. But he was the ox that was treading out the corn, and the laborer was worthy of his reward. Remember, that's what he told his disciples. Don't take nothing with you, right? Labor's worthy of his hire. You know what I'm saying? Don't take no brass, don't take no script, don't take no person, all this stuff. But then you turn around and look at it. He's the ox that was treading out the corn. He was the one doing the work, right? He was doing a great work to redeem the people. So therefore, because he did this labor that was so great, he was worthy of his reward. His reward was to be resurrected by the Ruach HaKodesh. So now when you turn around, when you look at Luke chapter 9, when he say he that putteth forth his hand to the plow, looking back is not fit for the kingdom of Elohim. Even though he's talking about preachers here. I want you to look at it in the aspect of look at yourself that if you walking in the word, you're an ox that's treading out the corn. You out here doing the labor. You're worthy of your reward. If you willing to work. And if you willing to work, then you're going to do what an ox do then one. You're going to go where an ox supposed to go. You're going to judge. You're going to make the right decision. You're going to do your job. Your job is to fear Elohim and keep his commandments. Come on back. That just came to my mind real fast, so that's why I went there. Looking at that when I was reading that about that ox. Maybe another day I go into it more in depth like I want to. I'm finna wind this thing on down. Verse 15 yet again. Behold now, behemoth which I made with thee, he eat grass as an ox. Lo, now his strength is in his loins, and his force is in the navel of his belly. He moved his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his stones are wrapped together. His bones are as strong pieces of brass. His bones are like the bars of iron. He is chief of the ways of Elohim. He that made him can make his sword approach unto him. Now that's a lot of stuff we just sit back and look at, and a lot of it I'm going to preach and not necessarily go and precept it up and run it all the way down. Before I even look at verse 16, what we came here for. Do you see how he say the sinews of his stones are wrapped together? And he moves his tail like a cedar. You know, sinews are basically tissues, right? You know what I'm saying? So when he say the sinews of his stones are wrapped together, look at 3 Peter chapter 2, verse 4. And this is going in how the body is supposed to be tight. Because sinews is the body. He said those stones, they're closely wrapped together. And this is also dealing with, because I still haven't dealt with the bearing burdens of Mashiach like I wanted to, that most High willing the next time we inside, that's what we'll do. Because, you know, the word ark, it means strong defense. You notice that he mentioned that in Job 40, right? I'm going to go back and you're going to look at that. That a brother is supposed to be a strong defense. You know what I'm saying? A fence, a guard, a shield unto his brother. See, that's where you look around with judgment and the mercy and the faith come in at. You know what I'm saying? When you turn around and look at it, man, most high, you know, you will be root for it. For the word that been given, as we've been looking at lately, the weightier matters. Yeah, that ain't talking about no dinosaur, brother. What did I say? Oh, 1 Peter 2 and 4. We had to turn around and sit back and look at it, man. You got to be willing to stick tight, stick close, stick together, walk together, live together, strengthen one another. 1 Peter 2 and 4. To whom cometh as unto a living stone, disallowed indeed of men, but chosen of Elohim, and precious. Ye also as lively stones are built up a spiritual house, a Kadesh priesthood, to offer spiritual sacrifices acceptable to Elohim by Yahushua HaMashiach. Wherefore also is contained in the scripture, behold, I lay in Zion a chief cornerstone, elect, precious, and he that believe on him shall not be confounded or confused. You know what I'm saying? We turn around and look at we believe on Mashiach, we would not be confused. But you notice how he said they're lively stones that built up a spiritual house? But you know, you put stones together, they wrap together, right? Stacked on top of one another, closely sealed, right? So when we sit back and look at it, we lively stones, we supposed to be stacked on top of each other, closely sealed. That's even when you sit back and you look at somebody, man, if they done did you wrong, you still got to be able to forgive them in love. Because you did Mashiach wrong and he forgave you in love. That's just judgment. You can't turn around and say somebody did me wrong and I'm not going to forgive them in love when the law teach you not to bear no grudge against your neighbor. You turn around and you don't do that. You have not kept the law and you have executed false judgment. That's a false balance. Because you're executing judgment according to your desire and what you want. You know what I'm saying? That's vain worship. That's why he said you transgress the commandments of Elohim by your tradition, because you're going to judge this stuff based on what you want to do. And we have to judge this stuff based on the word of Elohim and how Mashiach moved and do that there. I noticed I didn't get to the stuff that's dealing with Mashiach, dealing with emotions. I ain't going to be able to fit that in tonight. Come on back to Job chapter 40. One of these days I'll sit back and do that. I mentioned that earlier just because I'm in a space right now where I'm doing something that I ain't never did before. I've never dealt with my emotions before. It's a hard thing for me to be able to get not to say the mastery of not being able to control them as far as not behaving by them, but to harness in not wearing them on my sleeve. So we look at verse 17, right? He moved his tail like a cedar. The sinews of his stones are wrapped together. So he said you stacked up like lively stones. You could go get 1 Corinthians 12, like read it on your own. But he noticed that he said that we're members one of another. Lively stones wrapped together. No schisms, no separation. These are the things why you don't have no power with your Elohim, because you still thinking like a Gentile, solo dolo. Or you're going to cleave to the people that you want to cleave to. You want to click up and I'm going to deal with this person, I'm going to deal with this person, I'm going to deal with this person. And usually when you click up, you only clicking up with people who are going to tell you what you want to hear. You know what I'm saying? Or that's going to appease to you and whatever that you're seeking to be appeased to. You don't necessarily want to talk to people who are going to give you an upright perspective that might not necessarily be along the lines of what you want. And when you catch yourself doing that or thinking like that, just know that you're in the flesh and you're going to have to fight and resist that and subdue that. Because then when you do that, then you can be able to actually accept a sound judgment when it's given unto you. When we look at verse 18, he said how his bones are strong pieces of brass, his bones are like bars of iron. This is when you sit back, and that's why the book tell you iron sharpen iron, right? When he's sitting back talking about his brass, his bones are brass or iron, he already told you, you are what? Flesh of my flesh, bone of my bones, right? You his body. So if his bones are like brass, brass is strong. Again, our means strong defense. So he's supposed to be a strong defense. Why the man tell you two better than one? That when one fall, his brother be there to pick him up. How can the devil take your brother if he close to you? As Pac put it in a song a long time ago. How's that going to be able to happen? But y'all not close to each other. You're close to each other when it's beneficial to you. You know what I'm saying? Or you feel like I don't want to talk to this person, or I don't want to deal with this person, or I don't want to do this and I don't want to do that, and you wonder how you slip and how you fall, and then you dealing with people who got the same problem that you got. So two crackheads can't help each other out. You know what I'm saying? One of them crackheads gonna have to go to somebody who doesn't have that problem. Because all the two people are going to do is they're going to bounce off each other the same lustful desire that they both have. So this is two people headed for destruction, not for salvation. You don't look at it that way, because we always judging things based on the flesh. Instead of sitting back looking at, if the book sitting here telling that his bones are strong pieces of brass and his bones are like iron and we are his bones, that means we're supposed to be a defense to each other. We're supposed to do just like what Moses said. This is too much for me to bear alone. I'm going to need some help. He said he is chief of the ways of Elohim. He that made him can make the sword approach unto him. Well, we know who the chief ruler is. That's Yahushua HaMashiach. He's chief of the ways of Elohim. I mean, he first. In the beginning was the word, and the word was with Elohim. And we know he made the sword approach unto him because he killed him. So like he said, they do teach you that's a dinosaur. This ain't talking about no dinosaur. I don't recall if I ever went through this before, but I know I had been wanting to for a little minute. I just probably ain't never get around to it. But we came here for verse 16, and it said his strength is in his loins. That's why the man tell you gird up your loins like a man. You know your loins is your body. You know what I'm talking about? Then he turned around and say his navel. His force is in his navel of the belly, or his power is in the belly. He that believe on me, as the scripture has said, out of his belly shall flow rivers of living water. We done dealt with that. So you turn around and you look at that, when you see that Moses' natural force is not abated, and you turn around and look at the force is in the belly, or the behemoth. Behemoth means something that is great, something that is large, something that is big. Mashiach was great. She's the son of Elohim. See, there's no greater name upon earth under Shamahim upon which men shall call, or which men can be saved. This is the King of kings and Master of masters. This is the son of the living Elohim, Yahuwah. This is his son. He is great. He said he shall be called great and the son of the highest. That's what a behemoth is. Some behemoth is large, is great. So this is talking about the son. We turn around and look at it as if you don't want your strength to be abated, and you don't want it to pass away. There's absolutely no way that can happen when your force and your power is in your Elohim. When it's in him. And it's going to be in you because you execute judgment. We sit back and look at it again. Moses' biggest error was that he didn't speak to the rock. He smoked the rock. He smoked the rock because of his frustration with the people. You sit back and look at Moses was the most meekest man upon earth, right? But when the people made them idol, that man burned that idol up and made them people drink it. You know what I'm saying? Then he walked around snapping. Nehemiah was a humble man, but when them people came around there selling on the Shabbat, you know what he said? Come back around here, I bet I put hands on him. When he turned around, he seen them chief priests laying with them strange women, and their kid couldn't speak our brain, he put hands on them, snatching beards out and all. You know what I'm saying? When the Mashiach seen them dudes selling in the temple, this man got made whips and whooped these people. To the point where if we was to see these things right now in this day and time, that that probably would make us be like, that nigga's crazy. I don't want to hear nothing from him. If you see the man go in a temple, right, or go in a church or a synagogue, whatever you want to call it in these days and time, and them people was in there selling, and he went to whooping them, what you would think about him? You would think that nigga crazy. I don't want to listen to that nigga. That nigga crazy. That nigga went in there and whooped these people. Like he literally came in there with belts. Wah! Don't make my father's house a house of merchandise. Wah! 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 Flipping over tables, throwing these people out. You think about that. This is what he did. Imagine if you saw that. If you saw that, would you have believed on him, or would you would have thought he was crazy? If you sit back and look at it, right, you looking at these days and time, I can marry who I want to marry. And you marry somebody that got your kids, that can't even speak your native tongue, which means they don't even know they Elohim, right? And the head man, the head governor come up and go to snatching niggas' beards out. Snatching their beard out. Slapping them upside the head, punching them in the face. This is what he did. Because the chief priest did not execute sound judgment by marrying strange women. So he turned around and executed judgment on them and dropped them hammers on them. You know what I'm talking about? Or let's sit back and look at it. These people coming to sell on the Shabbat, right? They coming to sell on the Shabbat, right? And he sit back looking at here. Come back round here one more time, and I'm gonna put hands on you. Now you sit back and look at that. You looking at somebody, he's supposed to be the leader of the people, and he telling these people, boy, they come back around here one more time, I'm gonna whoop them. You might think this nigga is crazy. Moses catch you with an idol. He don't say, don't do that no more. He burns the idol, gives you straws, makes you drink it. And you walking up like, what they doing that for? Because they were worshiping idols, so he burnt the gold calf down and he made him drink it. The Babylonian mind state to have you thinking these niggas is crazy. You know what I'm talking about? Why would you want to listen to somebody like that? When actually they executing the judgment of Elohim for the transgression of the people. Because the people know they wrong. You know what I'm talking about? The people are taking that judgment because they judged the matter. Y'all are wrong. Look at what you did. You sit back and look at it. You worshiping an idol. This is judged as wrong. This is the penalty. I'm going to make you drink it. Better you drink it than y'all kill you. Right? You know what I'm talking about? You around here marrying strange women. Your kids can't even speak the language. Better I slap you in the face and pull your beard out than y'all kill you. Because you sinful and you lustful and you married somebody who was contrary to all weight that could turn not only your heart but the children that you serve heart. And then he told them people on top of that, put them women and them kids out. How many people got enough heart to say, I'm going to get rid of these sinful people? How many people be like, well, my wife is a sinner, I'm going to put her out? And my kids. How many people going to do that? Because my soul more important. This is what they told people to do. All of them did it. Because the chief priests already knew the law. You ain't supposed to marry no strange woman. You know what Deuteronomy 7 say. They'll turn your heart away from following me. Don't you marry their children. Don't you give your sons to their daughters. Don't you give your daughters to their sons. Don't you mess with them. They're going to turn you from following me. And what did we turn around and do? Fresh out of captivity. Turn around and did it. He said, boy, you got to get them all out of here. The chief priests were shamed. They went ahead and did it. Guess what somebody in the world would say with a back? How could you put your wife out and your kids? How could you do that? How could you even listen to a man or serve a God that would tell you to do that? Babylonian European mind state. You know what I'm saying? That force that's in your loins That ruach that's in your loins. Because he said, like he said the blueness of a womb clear. He said, well, hold on, Proverbs 20 and 30. We're good in Job. Proverbs 20 and 30. Let's sit back and look at it. Let's sit back and look at it, man. That man told Ezekiel to eat that roll. He said, well, that roll was like honey to sweeten it right in my belly. I mean, that word rests right here in my inward parts. Let's sit back and look at it. Where that word rests at when you eat it. 20 and 30. What do you tell you right here, man? 20 and 30. The blueness of a womb cleanse away evil. So do the stripes, the inward parts of the belly. So if you want to sit back and look at the power, the force, his force is in the navel of his belly. You got to take them stripes in that belly, right? See, hold on. Let's say I say that down. Go on to Philippians 3 and 17. I'll line it up like this here. Told y'all for the word. I'll line it up like this here now. I'm getting towards the end now. I'm getting amped up. 3 and 17. Let's sit back and look at what he's telling you though. Because I'm sitting here telling you this here that your power need to be in your inward part, deep down in your belly, right in your loins, in the inwards of a man. You know what I'm saying? Because if you want your belly to flow with living water, you got to dig down deep. That's why you say, gird up your loins like a man. Dig deep. He said, brethren, be ye followers together of me, and mark them which ought walk so as you have us for an example. For many walk, of whom I've told you often, and now tell you even weeping, that they are enemies of the stake of Mashiach. Sit back and tell you, man, anybody around here talking about let's commit sin, it's cool to sin, ain't no issue. He's an enemy of Mashiach. You don't want to suffer. You're not a friend of Elohim. I mean, you're a friend of the world. You're enmity with this man. Because if you find yourself an enemy of the stake, I know you got bad judgment. And this is what he tell you, right? For whose end is destruction, who Elohim is their belly, whose esteem is in their shame, who mind earthly things. For our behavior is in Shamahim, from whence also we look for the Savior, the Master, Yahushua HaMashiach, who shall change our vile body, that it may be fashioned like unto his glorious body, according to the working whereby he is even able to subdue all things unto himself. You see what he said? They Elohim, they God in their belly. See, because they force. The force that's in their navel or the force that's in their belly, it's not the force of Elohim. It's the force of the flesh. You desire your own work and your own will. So, of course, bad judgment is going to proceed. You know what I'm saying? See, you know in Romans chapter 8, he said, if you don't have the Ruach of Mashiach, you're none of his. You don't belong to him. That's why he say, drink water out your own well. Drink water from Mashiach. Stop sitting back looking, trying to get how you gonna sit back and look at it? This man sit back and say the words of the righteous as a well of life, and he tell you to drink waters out your own well. And how you gonna sit back and drink water out of empty well or a well that got sulfur water in it? You know what I'm saying? Polluted sewer water in it. Walk past smell like dookie. This is what you drinking. Because you drinking that because you would rather eat your own vomit and do your own will. Way more important to you. Way more important. Let's finish in Leviticus 19 so I can wrap this on up, man. It's 11:25. Oh boy. Leviticus 19 and 35. Just reiterating truthfully what he had already stated in what you call it, in the 15th verse of the very same chapter. And it says, ye shall do no unrighteousness in judgment in meat, yard, and weight, or in measure. Just balances, just weights, a just ephah, a just hin shall ye have. I am Yahuwah your Elohim, which brought you out of the land of Mizraim. Therefore shall you observe all my statutes and all my judgments and do them. I am Yahuwah. So you can't have no false balance now. You can't have no false balance. False balance means you mind earthly things. You're an enemy of the state because you're going to judge things according to how you want it or when it's beneficial for you. 2 Chronicles 19. and 5. Just going to reiterate that one last thing one more time. 19 and 5. And it says, and he set judges in the land throughout all the fenced cities of Yehudah, city by city. and said to the judges, take ye heed what you do, for you judge not for man, but for Yahuwah, who is with you in the judgment. Wherefore now let the fear of Yahuwah be upon you. Take heed and do it. There is no iniquity with Yahuwah Elohim, nor respect of person, nor taking of gifts. Now I had a couple other things with this here I want to touch, and most High willing. I got a little bit of time. Nah, I ain't gonna push it. That went along with this. But when you turn around and you look at it, when you sit back looking at no judging, ain't no sin with Yahuwah Elohim. So if you judging the matter, you can't be judging it so you can commit a sin or justify a sin or find a way to work a sin in. You definitely can't have no respect of persons looking at it who it is, and you definitely can't be swayed by no gifts, because you know people are trying to give you stuff to sway your judgment, and it ain't got to necessarily be right then and there when you judging a matter. You know what I'm saying? It could be a person giving you things over a period of time, and then they feel like because they done given you these things over a period of time that they can control what you say to them because they feel like you owe them. Because look at what I've been doing for you. Look what I've given you. That's why you say the wise don't take gifts, blind the eyes of the wise. It'll cause you not to judge right. But praise ye Yah for Yahushua HaMashiach in the word, man.